So Prime Day is Amazon's biggest sale event. How was it this year?
Oh, it was amazing. Prime Day is sort of like Hanukkah in that they said it would last one day, but I worked 8 straight days.
You say 8 days?
Oh, yeah. I worked so much I had to make up a whole new day of the week. Flu's Day, yeah. That's when you close your eyes on Friday and wake up behind the wheel on Tuesday, yeah. But I love it, wouldn't trade it for the world. I got a good job.
Well, see, you spend a lot of time working. Do you at least like your coworkers?
Oh, yeah, I love them. I love the people, the drones. Oh, Michael, the drones are so sweet. I actually hooked up with a drone. It's like I always say, can't get an STD if he's got a USB. Think about it.
Amazon wants drone delivery to stop being a novelty. The plan, which was announced recently, is to expand Prime Air to close to 500 US cities and towns by the end of 2026. Right now, it operates in 11 locations. Jeff Bezos first floated the idea in 2013 on television, promising 30-minute drone deliveries within a few years. Over a decade later, the service exists, but it's still fairly limited, and Amazon is now trying to scale it. Prime Air plans to launch soon in the Chicago, Illinois, Syracuse, New York, Cleveland, Ohio, Atlanta, Georgia, and Boise, Idaho metro areas, with more communities to come later this year. So what does it actually look like to use it? The drones carry packages up to 2.25 kilograms. This reportedly covers more than 60% of what customers typically buy. Things like groceries, over-the-counter medicine, cosmetics, small electronics, anything that fits in a large shoebox and doesn't weigh much. Each delivery hub can reach a radius of roughly 12 kilometers, so one site can theoretically serve multiple towns, with a total coverage of nearly 453.25 square kilometers. If your address is eligible and the item qualifies, the drone option just appears at checkout the same way standard shipping does. The speed pitch is 30 minutes. Most deliveries are running closer to an hour right now, but that's still faster than a truck. Prime members pay nothing on orders over $50 and $2.99 below that. Non-Prime customers pay $4.99. Amazon already has substantial FAA approval, including certifications for commercial operations and beyond line-of-sight flights. But city-level and community-level approvals are a separate process, and local pushback around noise, privacy, and airspace tends to slow things down. Safety questions are harder to wave away. In October, 2 Amazon drones reportedly collided with a crane in Arizona. That investigation is still ongoing. Another drone reportedly struck an internet cable in Texas, and one came down in a residential garden in the UK, though no one was hurt. Noise comes up constantly. Amazon's position is that the drones are only audible for about 20 to 30 seconds during a delivery, and that at altitude they are quieter than a lawn mower. Some residents near current operations describe the buzzing as irritating, regardless of how short it lasts. One thing Amazon is testing that doesn't get as much attention is a tether system for lowering packages to the ground. Currently, some deliveries drop from around 13 feet up, which rules out anything fragile. A gentler, decent mechanism could open up the eligible product list considerably, eggs being the example the company apparently uses. Amazon isn't the first to get here either. Alphabet's Wing has crossed 1 million commercial deliveries. Zipline has been running medical supply deliveries across multiple continents for years. Walmart is also scaling up through Wing. The competitive picture is more crowded than the Amazon press release framing tends to suggest. The company says Prime Air has completed hundreds of thousands of deliveries this year and is aiming to reach communities that represent around 30 million customers by the end of 2026.
Customers already turn to Amazon for fast same and next day delivery, and Prime Air provides them an even speedier option when they need it, with deliveries in as fast as 30 minutes. We have already delivered hundreds of thousands of packages to customers by drone this year, and by the end of 2026, we plan to reach customers in nearly 500 cities and towns. We're pairing the convenience of ultra-fast drone delivery with the low prices and selection customers love about Amazon.
Whether people will actually build a habit around it is the real unknown. The use case is narrow enough that it probably won't replace a weekly grocery run. But for the person who needs Tylenol at 9 p.m. or a phone charger before a flight, 30 to 60 minutes from the sky might eventually feel normal. Amazon is betting on that.
Stop using and selling drugs to one another. See, we're getting ready to be put in a real trap with this legalization of marijuana. So everybody, every black person can be unemployed, and then they can sit in their corner and get high on marijuana with whatever they decide to put in it. And people won't be asking for jobs and being determined that they're going to get jobs and going to get an education. No, everybody can start getting high on marijuana because somebody said it's medicinal and it's legal.
What about,
so we better beware.
What about the people who say the legalization of marijuana is fighting against racism because you have so many black people who are unjustly incarcerated as a result of racist enforcement of these drug laws? So this would be a good thing, and it would keep black people out of greater confinement.
No, we can do it by stop using and selling drugs to one another. See, if I'm not using drugs, then I can't be incarcerated for drugs. And I see so many males, young males in my practice who have become psychotic, almost never to return to normal from marijuana use because you don't know what's in it.
Massachusetts voters are set to revisit legal cannabis this election day. Last month, the state authority on ballot questions cleared the way for one that will ask whether regulated recreational marijuana sales should be repealed. If that question passes, Massachusetts will become the first state to repeal marijuana legalization. Kevin Sabet is president of the Virginia-based group Smart Approaches to Marijuana. The group, through its action committee, has already put more than $1.5 million to the Massachusetts committee behind the ballot question. He joins us now to talk about how the supporters are looking at the initiative. Kevin, welcome to All Things Considered.
Thanks for having me, Arun.
Kevin, tell us about why you would like to see legalization repealed in Massachusetts.
Sure. Well, thanks again for having me. You know, I think the reason almost 100,000 Massachusetts residents signed this petition, which was, really a grassroots effort, was that they'd been lied to about what marijuana was supposed to bring. They thought it was really about freedom, about just a low potency plant that, makes you a little high and a little giggly, a little munchy. And in reality, Massachusetts has more dangerous roads since legalization. The tax money argument is a mirage because of all the costs that go into administering and dealing with legal marijuana and more people using marijuana. The lost productivity, hurting business owners. And mainly what we heard was people really didn't think there'd be so many marijuana stores everywhere, that it would be so highly commercialized, controlled by a few corporations, these super highly potent products with really no end in sight. I mean, 99% potent, some of these products, some of these waxes and dabs. And so that's really where we're coming from. And it's not about criminalizing people either. I think people had said we don't want to criminalize adults for using. And so, that part would still remain intact, but it's the commercialized sales and the promotion normalization that I think is really on trial here.
Let's talk about some of those particulars. We'll start off with the potency, which you mentioned, which a lot of people have been talking about. Talk a bit more about that, how the potency of today's marijuana is different from what it was when, say, I was a young man. Yeah.
So, marijuana is a plant, and like all plants, we learned how to genetically breed them to be more potent. We have bigger tomatoes and bigger pumpkins, and, we have all kinds of fruits year round that we never did before. And in the same way, marijuana has been genetically bred and really altered to increase that THC level. THC is one of thousands of components in marijuana, but it's the component that makes you high. It binds to the receptors in your brain and body. And so the, average sort of smokable marijuana now in a dispensary is something like 20 to 30%, when it used to be maybe 20 years ago about 4 to 5%. The vapes and the concentrates, these dabs and these cartridges that a lot of people are using, a lot of kids especially, in these vapes, can be 90% or higher. So it's really a different drug. It's like, you wouldn't call a light beer and a bottle of grain alcohol the same drink by any means. And so it's really, this industry has pushed people to using more higher potent products much more often. And that it's happened because we've become better farmers, better at agriculture, and the industry, sort of like the tobacco industry used to do, has really pushed these high potent products.
And with that, why not just focus on controlling or regulating the potency? Talk about why the industry is part of the problem here, as you see it.
Yeah, it is a big part of the problem. It's like the tobacco industry of the 90s and before that, and like the pharmaceutical industry that brought, very dangerous oversupply of pain medication and addicted and hurt a lot of people. It's really the same thing. It's about money. It's corporate greed. It's addiction for profit, which, I think Massachusetts has a history of actually pushing back on. That's why I'm not terribly surprised this ballot initiative we're seeing first in the nation is coming from the Bay State. The industry has resisted all efforts to limit potency, limit products, limit packaging. We've tried for more than 10 years. We've asked for warning labels. We've, proper warning labels. We've asked for real potency limits. We've asked for advertising constraints. Of course, with the First Amendment, it's very difficult to restrict corporate advertising. We've asked for these things, and we're not getting them because the industry hires lobbyists, ex-politicians, puts out, bogus polling numbers to really push the narrative to their side and act like everybody is good with smelling weed everywhere. Everybody's good with these potent products being sold and fine with these pot shops popping up. And again, I think this ballot initiative is showing that, at least as a first step, that some people do want to push back against them.
On the other side of the money issue, those who would be anti-repeal make the argument that one of the reasons we should not repeal is because this has now become such a huge part of the economy in Massachusetts. The Mass Budget and Policy Center reported that since the legalization of recreational cannabis sales in Massachusetts have generated nearly $2 billion in state and local revenue, with total adult use retail sales reaching over $8 billion. Additionally, there's the Boston Globe reports about the state's Cannabis Social Equity Trust Fund, which receives money from taxes on cannabis sales, fines, and fees. That has awarded close to $60 million to local businesses. Do you have concerns about the economic disruptions that repeal could cause?
I know those numbers sound big, but really they're drops in the bucket compared to the overall budget of the state. First of all, let me tackle the social equity. Massachusetts was supposed to be the gold standard for social equity. It has been nothing but an embarrassment and frankly, an affront, I think, to social justice and civil rights. This idea that we're going to be minting black and brown millionaires, we were told we were going to be getting, those who were harmed by the war on drugs were finally going to be benefiting from the sort of renewed interest in marijuana. The only people benefiting have been the hedge fund managers and the Wall Street folks that are the investors in any of the successful companies in Massachusetts. So this has not been some kind of civil rights win. It's been dressed up like that, frankly, by privileged libertarians, to be honest with you. It has not produced, and we're not surprised. When you look at alcohol outlets, there are 8 times as many liquor stores in poorer communities of color than in white communities and upper class communities. It's not surprising that this is the case. But, this is an industry, frankly, that preys on those who are vulnerable. Let's be honest. If you're a young black kid without a lot of opportunity because society has basically said that, your opportunity is going to come from marijuana. It's not going to come from, actual housing, healthcare, education reform, which is what we need. You're going to have a much harder time clawing back from maybe your marijuana addiction, because there are so many kids now that are actually, I know it sounds crazy to some people, but they do meet the clinical definition of addiction. 1 in 3 now, according to the HHS, of users because of the potency. And that's going to be a lot harder for that poor black kid to claw out of than an upper class white kid out of, another part of town. And so it hurts social justice. And that's why, I really wince when I hear people say, well, we're doing this for social justice. It just hasn't happened. From an overall budget point of view, again, drop in the bucket. And really, we forget to count the costs. For every car crash, because there's been a huge increase in car crashes in Massachusetts, it's actually 85% of marijuana users in the state now admit to driving right after they use, 50% within an hour or less. Intoxication, by the way, can last hours in terms of you're affecting you. In fact, it can even last until the next day because marijuana stays in your system and the effects can last so long. That's one example of cost. There's also been lost productivity for businesses as a result of absenteeism and no-shows and workplace accidents that go up when you have more of a stoned workforce, when you're looking for roofers, when you're looking for people that come in some of these more difficult jobs. So I'm not concerned this is going to hurt the economy. I actually think it's going to help the economy overall.
That's Kevin Sabet, president of the Virginia-based group Smart Approaches to Marijuana. Kevin, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I and my white friends and friends of color had done in our youth and just treated as part of our youthful childhood.
Rites of passage.
We never even imagined that we would be stripped of rights for the rest of our lives if we had been caught with some weed or big victim of a crime. And, I went to college at Vanderbilt University. And, when I was there in college, you would go to fraternity parties and there would be cocaine, people would be getting high, wasted, jumping off the roof of buildings. I mean...
All right, you guys can't stop asking questions about Penn State, and we're following your clicks and curiosity, and it looks like you guys want to know about a major cocaine bust there in frat culture on college campuses. So let's break it down. We've got our Andrew Dimbert up first, then we've got Adam McCready. Fellas, thank you so much for being here. Let's start with the latest on the investigation into the frat brothers charged in that alleged cocaine trafficking ring at Penn State. Andrew Dimbert has been here following the story for us. Andrew, appreciate you being here, man. So authorities say that this involves two fraternities, one that has now been suspended and another that Penn State says wasn't even recognized as an official frat on campus. How did law enforcement crack down on this, and what is Penn State saying?
Yeah, so essentially Penn State can't really, at least at this point, sort of suspend or punish that other fraternity because they said it never had any affiliation to the university. But as for this investigation, this didn't happen overnight. This was years of police work here, 2 years, a long-term investigation, really. And it all started when a detective went undercover and started making controlled purchases of the cocaine. Those purchases helped investigators uncover what they called a large-scale operation. And uncovering all of this then allowed prosecutors to get a statewide grand jury, and now you have 14 individuals facing charges, some of them really serious felonies, including conspiracy.
Oh my gosh, seems kind of unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
So Andrew, the Attorney General has dubbed this investigation as Operation Drugs Unlimited. Like you said, 14 people have been charged. What exactly are they being accused of?
Well, it's important to note, and prosecutors say this, that this is not just a case of college kids possessing cocaine, and it's not even a case of college kids possessing a lot of cocaine. They say this was a sophisticated operation. They allege that the drugs were brought in from Philadelphia and New York. They were cut up, packaged, and sold at those two fraternity houses and then sold primarily to Penn State University students. 4 of the defendants are facing major felonies, including the conspiracy charges I mentioned. Some are facing misdemeanor possession charges, and one is the father of one of the alleged dealers. He's accused of helping conceal drugs and obstructing the investigation, Ashin.
Feels like a plot of a movie, Andrew. And so obviously we're talking about frats here. So was this just a drug ring, or did this somehow tie into, frat hazing as we know it?
Well, the short answer is both, and this is where this case gets really disturbing here. According to court documents, one of those fraternities actually employed, if you will, some of its pledges and forced them into taking part in this operation, to package and to distribute the drug. And remember, pledging is, that process where you try to get into the fraternity, the hazing ritual. So it involved these drugs, according to prosecutors. But this is not a hazing case. It's just far more serious. It's a cocaine trafficking ring case. Ashin.
Andrew, is really unbelievable. Appreciate you breaking this down for us. Let's now bring in Adam McCready. He's an associate professor in residence of higher education with expertise in college men and fraternities. Thank you so much for being here. So student affairs at Penn State are saying that criminal activity, including hazing, has, quote, no place at our institution. Does this drug bust at Penn State come as a surprise for you?
Not really. I mean, I think fraternities have been associated with social experience and parties and even drug use for decades, if not over a century now. So no, not a surprise. I think, in fact, when I was a fraternity professional, there was a drug bust on my campus. And so not a new phenomenon, but I think the scope and severity of this issue is certainly concerning.
Yeah, Adam, I definitely remember it happening on my campus as well. And so fraternities and sorority chapters, they'll say that they don't condone hazing or abuse. But you and I both know that hazing does occur, and sometimes it can be deadly. Why is hazing an unofficial tradition for some members in Greek life? Like, how do we make sense of it?
Yeah, I mean, first it's important to recognize that hazing is incurred on college campuses before fraternities and sororities ever existed, and that these organizations simply adopted the behaviors that were already occurring on their campus when they began to indoctrinate new members into their experiences. And so the first fraternity hazing death actually happened in the late 19th century. So not a new phenomenon. I think that fraternities when they bring in new members, are finding ways to gatekeep. I think fraternity hazing issues are often more significant, or hazing is more significant often in fraternities than sororities, because masculinity and manhood are often associated with competition and risk-taking and violence. And so I think as new members try to secure the power and the social prestige that fraternities have, they're willing to engage in behaviors that might be risky, or engage behaviors like this drug-related phenomenon at Penn State.
For sure. I mean, break this down for me, especially for people who are not familiar with Greek life. Like, what is the lure for pledges? Like, why are they willing to participate in things like hazing, potentially criminal activity, like what we're seeing with these two fraternities at Penn State? Like, why even step into this realm?
Yeah, and I first want to say that, like, when you pledge or become a new member in a fraternity, it's not always about hazing, right? So this is not a consistent phenomenon across all organizations. I think particularly for fraternity chapters or houses that have status, new members are willing to engage in behaviors to access that status and prestige on their campus. And so on institutions like Penn State, where you have these large fraternity houses and the fraternities and sororities are the social outlet for campus, new members are willing to engage in behaviors they might not willingly be able to do or willing to do in order to gain access to that social prestige and that social environment.
You talked a little bit about the history of Greek life. Like, what actually, just help contextualize this for me. Like, what is the overall and long-term benefit of joining a fraternity, of actually pledging, and what is the appeal as it dates to sort of generations ago?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at their best, right, fraternities are about places to find community and find belonging, and can often help members find supports and resources to be successful in college. I mean, many of these organizations have extensive alumni or undergraduate networks where members are willing to support each other through the college experience, but also throughout life. I was a fraternity member, and some of my closest friends in this world are folks that I went to college with or were members elsewhere. And that, when fraternities were founded 200 years ago on campuses, they were the sole social outlet for members at colleges who otherwise were under like strict policies and oversight from faculty. So for a long, long time, they've been an opportunity to build community and friendship. But at their very worst, right, they can perpetuate harms in these extreme environments like at Penn State.
For sure. Two sides to every coin. Adam, appreciate you, man. Thanks so much for joining us.
Man, you see this Mark Zuckerberg building this $270 million bunker?
If you have $1 billion, we have learned that you can do whatever you want to do.
We begin with a trial that could transform some of the most popular social media apps on the planet. A group of 29 U.S. states is suing the tech giant Meta, seeking potentially hundreds of billions of dollars in penalties. The 4 lead states in the trial, California, Colorado, Kentucky and New Jersey, accuse the company of harming children by designing Facebook and Instagram to be as addictive as cigarettes. The states argue Meta has fueled a national youth mental health crisis, causing depression, anxiety and even suicide, and that it's deceived users by promoting its apps as safe. California's Attorney General is Rob Bonta.
We want them to stop harming our kids knowingly. They designed a dangerous product It was something they knew was dangerous, and they lied to the public about it. So we want them to end those practices, stop visiting harm upon our kids. The features that they have, including infinite scroll and autoplay and beeps and alerts and likes and ephemeral content, hurt kids.
Parents who said that social media platforms played a role in their children's deaths gathered outside a federal courthouse in Oakland in California, holding a banner with the names of their sons and daughters.
Emmy didn't want to die. She loved her family. She loved her pets. She loved her frogs, her geckos, and our time at the lake house. She loved her life. What she could not survive was the hopelessness and the helplessness that was created and amplified by the design choices that Meta put in front of her.
This wasn't an accident. My son did not take his life. My son was killed. It's a design choice. A company that builds its platforms to maximize a child's engagement, click after click, at the cost of the child's safety.
But Meta completely denies the allegations, arguing they're unsupported by any evidence. Our North America technology correspondent, Lily Jamali, was in court as the trial began.
We heard opening statements from both sides. An attorney for the state of California opened saying that Meta hid the truth about how addictive its platforms are. And she tried to show that by drawing contrast between what Meta executives have said about how safe Instagram and Facebook are in public and what internal documents show about what they knew about the actual user experience. Surveys showing, for example, a quarter of users as young as 13 experiencing bullying, seeing nudity and violence. Meta, by contrast, said it's been very transparent, that they've used their own research to make changes, built tools aimed at helping with things like time management on the platform. You could also see Meta's lawyer trying to sort of preemptively soften the impact of language in emails among Meta employees that jurors are going to see later in the trial.
And what would it mean if Meta were to lose this trial?
It would mean that they could face significant financial penalties. The Attorney General of California made clear at a news conference today that they will be asking for exactly that, significant payment. But the the Attorneys General, I should say, are not being terribly forthright about what that number will be. I think they think it's a little early to get into numbers. Bigger picture, what they want, and they've been very clear about this, is that they want to see major changes to Meta's business model, an end or a curtailing of what states say are these addictive features that are all about addicting young users in their telling of things, whether that's infinite scroll or push notifications.
And are we likely to hear from Meta's chief executive, Mark Zuckerberg?
I pressed Attorney General Rob Bonta on that very question today. He wouldn't say. He said the answer to that is unknown, and that he doesn't have a personal preference. Meta lawyers indicated during opening statements today that Mark Zuckerberg would testify. He is a well-known figure. If he takes the stand, I think we get into issues of, how he strikes jurors in terms of credibility and likability. But jurors have been asked to leave any preconceived opinions at the door.
And Lily, just tell us what we're expecting to unfold over the coming weeks with this trial.
We're expecting 6 weeks at least of testimony. We're going to hear from some company executives. We're almost certain of that. We've already started hearing from a Meta whistleblower, somebody who was at the company, left and came back because of what he was witnessing with Instagram in his own kids' lives, and said that he flagged a number of concerns to no avail. And we're talking about very high-level executives in the company were made aware, according to him. The jury in this case is going to try and render a verdict, but that verdict will be just advisory. Ultimately, the final outcome rests with the judge in this case.
Lily Jamali.
We got to stop bluffing. We copied it off our fathers that went before us. And I'm talking about all the way back to the boat, before we got on the boat. They were bluffing. They were used to killing each other. Let's tell the truth. We call it our tribal warriors. I asked those questions back in the 1960s. I said, wait a minute, all you guys talking black nationalism, all like that, say, yeah, we come from a great line of warriors. I said, wait a minute, before white people, who were you fighting? Oh, you're real good at fighting each other. Well, what else is new? But when you come up against a real champ, You wind up with your babies and you and everybody else on the boat. You can everybody on the boat in chains, slipping and sliding in filth. Doing the same thing in New Orleans.
A group of divers in the Florida Keys are chasing sunken history. It's a past that's been hidden beneath the waves for nearly 200 years. Amara Evering of member station WLRN reports.
Shelley Baxter waits on a dock for a boat that will take her on another dive in the Florida Keys. The genealogist has spent most of her time helping Black and Indigenous people trace their ancestral roots through her organization, Our Genetic Legacy. But now her work is taking her out to sea.
Our end goal is to be able to do this archaeological research underwater to help find sunken slave ships and document them. We were studying for the Guerrero.
The Guerrero was a pirate slave ship bound for Cuba that wrecked off Key Largo in 1827. 41 African captives on board drowned, and the 399 survivors were captured, then sold back into slavery. At age 55, Baxter took up diving to help uncover sunken histories like these.
It's a whole nother level of diving because you're diving to stay in place, take measurements, write them down underwater, and then come back up and create a schematic drawing to scale so that they can create a recreation of that shipwreck in order to try to identify what ship that is.
Divers like Baxter have helped discover shipwrecks in Florida. For marine archaeologist Corey Malcolm, slave shipwrecks often have one obvious feature.
The telltale sign of a ship that was engaged in telling people would be the iron shackles.
He said shackles were discovered on one shipwreck in the 1970s.
I know on the Henrietta Marie, 84 sets of those were found on the ship. That's enough to hold 168 people because they held people 2 by 2.
Back on the dock, Baxter is joined by a group of young women who she's teaching how to dive. One of them is Anjani Nettles.
We were at the site of the Guerrero, and it was so impactful to be like, I'm here breathing in this water where this tragedy took place.
16-year-old Alana Lara is the youngest member of the group. She says Baxter has given her a new perspective.
I was a person that didn't like history, so having this opportunity, being underwater is like an entirely new world. I realized how much more there is to the world that we don't know. If we learn from the past, we can maybe make it right in the future.
Before heading out for one last dive of the day, Baxter reflects on the powerful contradiction of safely breathing underwater at a shipwreck where so many drowned, but many survived.
When you're looking at documents and you put names to those ancestors and you look at locations, it just increases that understanding and allows you to be able to see that the strength that they had to survive is in you.
Baxter goes out to sea with the young divers. She's told them that the Guerrero is just one of over 1,000 ships that wrecked during the transatlantic slave trade. Fewer than 20 of these ships have been recovered so far. For NPR News, I'm Amara Evering in Key Biscayne, Florida.
Hitler had the supreme fascist state. And what was he worried about in Europe and in Germany? He was worried about white genetic annihilation. What is everybody in Europe worried about now? Why genetic annihilation? All these people from Syria coming up in here.
Weeks after more than 70,000 people crossed the Moroccan border into the Spanish territory of Ceuta on the North African coast, the Spanish government says that most of those who crossed the border are back in Morocco. But reporting from NPR shows thousands of migrants, many of them unaccompanied minors, remain in Ceuta, while the local population remains leery of their presence. And that means tensions have not resolved. On Saturday, Reuters reported that Moroccan police arrested more than 100 people as they tried to enter Ceuta. Now, as both sides tighten security on the border, there are still many unanswered questions about why this massive crossing of people happened in the first place. Maria Munoz Morillo believes she has some of the answers. She's the Spain bureau chief for Euronews, and she recently wrote a piece titled Ceuta Explained, How Spain's Biggest Migration Crisis Unfolded. I spoke to her earlier this week, and I asked what people in Ceuta are feeling.
Well, things are still very tricky because after 15 days, we had this avalanche in Ceuta. There are still a lot of people there. According to official figures, between 5,000 and 10,000 illegal migrants still in Ceuta. Around 2,000 of them are minors, which is very tricky because they cannot be returned into Morocco.
So this was a shocking event. I mean, what do we know about what prompted these tens of thousands of people to suddenly cross from Morocco into Ceuta?
So it's not the first time this happens. This had happened before in Ceuta in 2021. There was 10,000 people crossing by. At the moment, Spanish government had the suspicion that Morocco used those people because we had in Spain in the hospital, it was during COVID pandemic, Gali, who is the Polisario Sahara leader. So it's not the first time, apparently, Morocco uses people, civilians, to put pressure to punish Spain. This time, at the beginning, the government, Spanish and the Moroccan one, they were saying it was due to human trafficking networks, but a few hours after that, they started to look into social media and they realized there were messages saying the border is open, go to Spain, you will have papers, you will have housing, you will be able to move around Europe, so just go to Spain.
You mentioned Morocco's involvement in this mass sudden migration. What evidence do we have that Morocco's government was involved?
We don't have any evidence apart from what intelligence services are saying. They actually say they alerted the government, but the Home Minister denied all these accusations. Actually, the government is backing up Morocco. They are saying we are working with Morocco. Morocco is an ally.
Just to be clear, Mary, you're talking about the Spanish government?
Yes.
Okay,
the Spanish government, it's, let's say, cooperating with Morocco, and Morocco is cooperating with the Spanish government. But sources from intelligence, from Guardia Civil, from our police officers, they say that there is a plan and it is a pattern. It is not the first time we see a country using civilians, using immigration against our country to put pressure. Actually, the government from Morocco, the justice minister, a couple of days ago in an interview, he said that they want to talk about the sovereignty of Ceuta and Melilla. Both of them are in Africa. Both of them are enclaves. They've always been Spanish for the last centuries. They've never been Moroccans. They are not hiding anything. They want to talk about this. Actually, the U.S. Capitol, maybe we should start talking about Ceuta and Melilla being in Moroccan territory, being Moroccan nationalities. The Spanish government has been very serious about this. The defense minister yesterday, she was very clear, Margarita Robles. She said Ceuta and Melilla are Spanish. They've been Spanish for centuries and they will stay as Spanish autonomous cities.
Did you just say that the U.S. Capitol, that U.S. Congress was talking about this?
Yeah, the situation is hard for the Spanish government because we all know the feud between Trump and Sanchez. They are not friends. The relationship, the diplomatic relationship is not at a great moment. Morocco is an ally to the U.S. At the moment, it makes sense that the U.S., they may back up Morocco instead of Spain because Spain right now is not a friend of the United States.
You know, I'm curious, what are just normal people on the street there in Spain saying about this? How do they feel about this issue?
Morocco is the one calling the shots. Like, we don't understand why the government is more critical with the country that made this happen, because the reports we got from there that day, the 31st of July, is that the Moroccan forces, they weren't doing anything. Actually, the New York Times published that some of the officers were telling the immigrants, yes, you just need to feel that way and you will enter Spain. So we wonder why the country and the European Union is not more critical with a regime that it is using the citizens to put pressure on another country.
That is journalist Maria Munoz Morillo of Euronews. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Doe, going on in your country right now in Vietnam is 4,000 little kids who are in quarantine camps away from their parents because of this fake scamdemic. And you come to my country and you act like one of these communist parasites, I ask you to go the back to Vietnam.
Lord. The Dallas-Fort Worth area is one of the country's fastest-growing large metro areas. That growth is fueled in part by suburban communities like McKinney, Plano, and Frisco that include growing Asian and Muslim populations. Now, though, some residents say they are encountering unexpected hostility over their immigration status and their faith. Caroline Love from member station KERA in Dallas reports.
Guli Janat cooks enough chicken curry to feed her family for a couple of days while she's working her nursing shift at a local hospital.
Let's just toss it for like 1 or 2 minutes.
Her family is Muslim, so the chicken is halal. That means it's slaughtered in accordance with Islamic law. Janat lives in Frisco with her husband, Ifti Islam, their 2 kids, and the family cat, Tuna. She used to have to travel to other nearby cities to get halal meat and the spices she uses in her cooking. But now, Frisco's local grocery stores have everything she needs.
The Kroger, the Tom Thum, the H-E-B, they all have our type of food. So they are welcoming us. Like, they are encouraging us, yes, please come to Frisco, stay there.
Janat is originally from Bangladesh, but has called Frisco home for almost a decade. The Texas suburb is about 30 miles north of Dallas. Frisco's Asian population has contributed to the city's massive growth, from being about 2% of the population in 2000 to close to 30% now. The once small suburb has attracted high-end shopping, entertainment districts, and corporations. The Dallas Cowboys and the Professional Golfers Association of America relocated their headquarters here in the last 10 years. And the schools here are some of the best in the state.
We moved to Frisco because of the good school, the growth, the economic opportunity, the welcoming, warm welcome that we got from our neighbors.
That's Janat's husband, Ifti Islam. He says historically, Frisco had embraced his family, but that appears to be changing. Islam says members of these communities feel singled out for their heritage, national origin, and their faith. Frisco City Council has heard from residents who've accused the city's Indian community of visa fraud. Residents also spoke at another meeting against a new mosque, plus a new Hindu temple and the city's first Jain temple being built. Hinduism and Jainism both originated in India.
I have every right to say I'm proud of my country, and I don't want to see it turn into India or Islam.
That's Kaylee Campbell. She's a conservative political commentator who's based in North Texas who testified at a Frisco City Council meeting in May. North Texas Muslims are facing animosity from state and local leaders. Governor Greg Abbott and Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton have both launched investigations of a North Texas mosque called the East Plano Islamic Center. Islam, who got his doctorate at the University of Texas at Dallas, says he's never encountered such hostility in the city that he calls home.
Even my daughter asked me one day, how come someone say Islam is a terrorist religion?
Rajendra Rani Churmamia, who has a doctorate in biology, says the sudden animosity in a city that had been so welcoming is surprising. She's originally from South India and has lived in Frisco for 15 years. Churmamia is concerned about her 2 sons. They're high school band students who were born and raised in North Texas.
All they have seen is here. And if they are having to face so much questions about their race or existence, it does hurt as a parent.
Many Frisco residents say the hostility some immigrant and Muslim neighbors are facing don't represent their values. In the early summer, people stood outside the Islamic Center of Frisco Mosque for several Fridays in the Texas heat to show support after a divisive council meeting. Nadim Zaman has been a member of the Islamic Center of Frisco since it had 50 members and met in a small building in downtown Frisco. Now the large mosque is packed on Fridays, the day of worship for Muslims. Zaman says the city needs additional mosques.
If there's going to be 15,000 Muslims coming for prayers, and the capacity here is less than 5,000, it is very natural that we will need more properties.
Supporters of the Hindu and Jain temples also say the extra space is needed. The pushback at the Frisco City Council meeting didn't stop the city from eventually approving the mosque and 2 temples for construction. And residents elected a new mayor in June who touted the city's diversity. The new mayor and his supporters say they'll join with their neighbors to keep Frisco a welcoming place. For NPR News, I'm Caroline Love in Frisco.
Most people have heard about solitary confinement, but few actually have experienced it and know what it entails. I have, and I do. There are basically 2 kinds of solitary: administrative and disciplinary. The former is usually of a temporary nature or tied to a sentence, while the latter is a response to behavior in prison. I've been in both. For death row is a kind of solitary because of the sentence, death. Guys have spent years doing 23 plus 1, or 23 hours a day, locked up in a cell, with 1 hour a day outside, locked in a cage. Think of a cage for a dog. Only the dog usually gets more space. I spent 28 years on death row in solitary. While on death row, I was sent to the hole, or the second type that I discussed earlier, for refusing to cut my hair, where I stayed for 8 years. Remember I said 23 and 1? That isn't really true, because that 23 hours locked up only referred to Monday to Friday. On the weekends, it became 24 hours a day, or the weekend, 48 hours. That was solitary. I've seen men lose their senses and start howling to the moon for hours on end. Other men beat on their metal bunks for 10, 15, or more hours a day, singing songs of pure nonsense for weeks or months on end. I've seen men smear their faces, head, and bodies with feces until they looked like mud men, but that wasn't mud that they were covered with. I've seen men shrieking, howling, barking, and screaming in an attempt to escape the loneliness of solitary. For the fact is, some men were sent to solitary for over 20 years, or even 30 years, for escaping or attempting to do so. The great prison teacher, Russell Maroon Schultz, spent over 30 years in the hole for escaping back in the 1970s. Arthur Chetaweo Johnson spent decades in holes across the state of Pennsylvania for being what was called a black militant. That's the word that they used back then in the 1970s. Chetaweo was a child lifer, an innocent man who was 16 years old when he went to prison. He spent 50 years in prison. He's out now, free. Maroon worked with the young men in the hole with him. He taught them history. He taught them how to organize. He shared copies of The Wretched of the Earth, and he taught them resistance for generations. His students emerged from the hole, different beings, knowledgeable, comfortable, confident, wise, and activists that could not be stopped. It's interesting to contrast how the state created an institution like the whole to destroy and break men's minds, while a man like Maroon used the whole to teach men how to serve their communities and how to struggle to change the world. Finally, what is solitary? According to Juan Mendez, the special rapporteur for torture for the United Nations, any time beyond 15 days, think about it, 15 days constitutes torture because it breaks minds with love, not fear. This is Mumia Abu Jamal.
We knew that we had to monitor our enemies. We also come to realize that we need to monitor the people who are monitoring them.
Well, who's going to monitor the monitors of the monitors?
Our big story tonight on Fox 6 News at 9, flock fallout continues. And now former Kenosha County Sheriff's deputy facing felony charges after investigators say he used flock cameras to stalk a co-worker.
Abriel Preciado joins us with details coming from this new complaint, Abriel.
That's right, you guys. Tonight we have the former deputy's picture. 44-year-old Frank McGrath is charged with 2 counts of misconduct in public office. Now, according to prosecutors, McGrath was dating another deputy and turned to the top-tier tracking technology for personal business. Investigators say a routine interval audit revealed that McGrath ran his fellow deputy's personal license plate through the county's flock plate reader system 16 to 17 times. Now, in just 4 hours, and while off-duty, falsely marking the searches as suspicious activity. And it didn't stop there. The documents reveal that McGrath repeatedly logged onto Polaris, which is a live GPS portal used to track squad cars and body cameras, a total of 40 times to track her real-time location while she was on shift. And we spoke with Kenosha County Board Supervisor Laura Pelsky, who says she is not against the flocks but demands accountability.
The work is not finished. So I think there's more that we need to look into because, again, I want to make sure that everybody understands this is alleged misuse and charges. And until everything goes to court, all we can do is look at what was in place and what needs to be in place.
And following the incident, Kenosha County Sheriff's Office has implemented several new measures, like personnel must formally document both the specific reason and associated case number whenever performing license plate searches, and all department staff must complete remedial flock academy training. And the time frame for the retaining flock data has been significantly shortened from 30 days down to just 7 days. Now, McGrath's initial court appearance is scheduled in September. In the newsroom, Abril Preciado, Fox 6 News.
We've seen multiple cases like this in our area. All right, Abriel, thanks.
You know, I've always wanted to be a cop.
The Brevard County Sheriff recently named this man Deputy of the Year. Now, I've learned he's off the job after being accused of, quote, egregious misconduct. Just hours after this awards ceremony where Michael Fultz was honored as Deputy of the Year, the Sheriff's Office says it received this photo of Fultz, who appears to be performing a Nazi salute. Although Fultz's face is blocked out, investigators say his mustache is shaved to mimic Adolf Hitler. The photo was reportedly taken shortly before Fultz became a deputy. Fultz denied being racist, records show, describing the photo as merely a joke. Another photo shows Fultz holding a firearm to his ex-girlfriend's head and inserting it into her mouth during sex. The ex-girlfriend told investigators it was completely consensual. Records show Fultz admitted that he violated all safety rules and firearm training. The Deputy of the Year was also accused of logging into the Flock camera license plate reader system to look up his ex-girlfriend's tag number. He denied doing it to spy on her. Fultz, who just issued a public apology, resigned before the sheriff's office could fire him. Check out the full story on clickorlando.com.
Let me say something that gets to the very crux of the matter, and this may be offensive for some to hear who are not on the side that we're on. White people, we have been the problem for 400 years.
Say that again.
Let me say it one more time for those of you who didn't hear me. White people, we have been the problem for 400 years.
My neighborhood, and you think was on your side? Bye.
Right now at 11 o'clock, a racist confrontation caught on camera in Antioch. A black woman recorded a man repeatedly calling her the N-word. Tonight, she's speaking exclusively to us as police investigate another disturbing incident in the neighborhood. Let's bring in NBC's Pete Serratos, who joins us in Antioch with the very latest. Pete.
Yeah, and this woman you're going to hear from wants to stay anonymous because she says she doesn't feel safe in her own neighborhood. And now police are investigating if a device thrown at a home this morning is connected to the videos going viral.
I can't either. Look at all the tattoos and the stupid piercings. This black thinks she's some lawyer. Like all you think you're lawyers.
The words are difficult to hear, and for this Antioch woman on the receiving end, even harder to forget. This viral video shows a man repeatedly calling her the N-word last month.
In my little area, I think I'm the youngest African American there. I bought my home 6 years ago. It was my 35th birthday gift to myself. So it's like, why do I have to live like this?
The woman does not want her identity revealed for safety reasons. She says tensions with the man date back to January, when they went to court over what she describes as too many cats at his family's home.
I went to court with them back in January because they basically taken over my backyard, like cat feces and everything.
Then last month, she says the man berated her with the N-word as she walked to her car, prompting her to record. A restraining order was later issued against him. And in a separate incident that month, Antioch police arrested him on suspicion of a civil rights violation and battery. The Contra Costa County DA later filed misdemeanor charges.
My intention was to react. Right? Who wants to be called those names? Who wants to, like, I don't bother nobody. He bothers everybody.
The videos went viral over the weekend, and this morning, police say an explosive device was thrown at the man's home. Investigators are looking into whether it's connected to the videos and the family's address being posted online.
This is what we've been getting all day.
Marianne Ramirez is the man's mother and says the family is now being harassed, sharing images of their cars being vandalized. She says her son has dealt with behavioral issues since childhood and has had previous conflicts with neighbors.
I don't condone it happening. But like I'm trying to explain, he has ADHD. Every single one of my neighbors, this isn't the first crazy episodes he has. You know, he's got ADHD. The police know it. They've been here to my house many times, and I've, just to calm him down for me.
The man is already facing charges from that separate July incident. And a legal analyst says any future conduct could bring additional consequences.
If this continues, they may revisit that issue because hate speech, when you direct it at someone specifically because of their race, is not protected under the First Amendment, and that can lead to a criminal prosecution.
Kevin, believe you, we got your back.
But as the video continues to spread, community members are also showing up to support the woman at the center of it.
Why do I have to live in fear?
Now, Antioch PD says that this explosive device incident is still under investigation, and now detectives are working to determine if it's connected to those videos circulating online. We're live in Antioch. Pete Serratis, NBC Bay Area News.
The Dallas-Fort Worth area is one of the country's fastest-growing large metro areas. That growth is fueled in part by suburban communities like McKinney, Plano, and Frisco.
Gloves came off in a Collin County courthouse today. Defense attorneys went first, and they shared a disturbing history of violent behavior by Austin Metcalf. And it appears tomorrow is going to be no different. Our J.D. Miles tonight has a 75-page document that's going to be presented tomorrow, taking a deep look into Carmelo Anthony's past. It remains to be seen how his supporters will react tomorrow, but it was clear that they were pleased with what they heard in court today.
There were chants and cheers outside the Collin County Courthouse this evening when the hearing over whether Carmelo Anthony should get a new trial wrapped up its first day. A day when evidence was presented showing Austin Metcalf's disturbing record of fights, bullying, and racist behavior. Carmelo Anthony was dressed in a suit and tie for this morning's hearing, which began with the defense arguing that efforts by the trial judge and prosecutors to combat threats and deal with disruptions actually prevented Anthony from getting an open and fair trial. But bombshell testimony came this afternoon from Anthony's trial attorney, Mike Howard, about Austin Metcalf's background report that was never presented to the jury. CBS News Texas has also learned new details about Austin Metcalf's background. Metcalf and his brother Hunter were once caught spray painting graffiti, including KKK Kill All Blacks and Heil Hitler, along with the N-word, and were sentenced to 12 months of juvenile probation. Records reveal they reportedly told authorities, "We did some dumb stuff. We did some vandalism." There are several documented instances of Austin using racial slurs in school, and in 2023, Austin was accused of bullying a black student in class. In 2018, while still in elementary school, Austin and his brother were accused of bullying and assaulting a female, which led to his arrest. During an argument in 2024 with another female student, Austin allegedly knocked her to the ground and punched her in the stomach. He was also kicked out of a football game and texted someone later, "I was about to beat the expletive out of those kids." At a previous track meet, when another student alerted Austin that someone not on their team, quote, "behind our bench was talking wild," Austin reportedly replied, "Kill that MF." During the 2023-2024 school year, he received in-school suspension twice. School disciplinary records from April 2022 to May 2024 reveal that Austin reportedly called a teacher the B word and used profanity. He told a school official that he couldn't control it and wasn't aware that it was coming out of his mouth. In 2024, on at least 5 occasions, Austin saw a counselor regarding his anger and rage during a football game. In 2021, he got banned from attending basketball games for a season after yelling profanity at a player. Metcalf also got suspended after he and another student were talking about bringing a gun to school the following day. But the never-before-released details of Anthony's early years in Louisiana up to the day of his arrest for murder are also disturbing. On the day that Carmelo Anthony would fatally stab Austin Metcalf, prosecutors say he sent this text message at 1 a.m., which said, quote, "I'm low-key on the verge," and then emphasized it. Later in the morning, on April 2nd, 2025, and hours before Anthony would kill Metcalf with a knife at a high school track meet, prosecutors say Anthony's girlfriend reported to a Centennial High School staff member that Anthony was engaging in stalking behavior, to include but not limited to driving by her home and refusing to allow her to end their relationship. Also, in the 75-page filing, prosecutors say Anthony had previously been accused of stealing his girlfriend's phone, and in October 2024 wrote a to-do list for his girlfriend about how to deal with, quote, weirdos, which included the line, "Say some slick, like my boyfriend, kill people." There are also text messages where he admits on at least 2 occasions to punching girls in the face. Prosecutors also found text messages from 2021 between Anthony and another student about robbing someone of $300. There are also text messages where Anthony talks about a fight and punching someone so hard he had to stop fighting. In 2023, prosecutors say Anthony told a friend he was going to vandalize someone's house in Austin, saying, quote, "I just feel like it. I got a grudge." In 2021, Anthony told a friend he had been suspended from school for 3 days for fighting, saying, quote, "They said next time I do some, I get recommended for expulsion." In a text conversation with a friend in 2023, prosecutors have messages from Anthony where he wrote, "I'ma shoot the school up tomorrow with my blick," but later sends messages saying, "I would never actually do that." In a 2024 text thread, prosecutors say Anthony admitted to carrying a firearm, telling a friend before a party that he would have the gun in my pocket. There are other message threads where Anthony also mentions carrying a gun. After numerous suspensions for fighting while attending school in Louisiana, there are messages between Anthony and his girlfriend after he moved to Frisco. In one message thread, she suggests he should sit for a while, and he replied, "Yeah, and punch people, maybe run sometimes. I have to. It's like a priority for me. I like punching people. When I get mad, I see red. When I get mad, I black out. When I get mad, I can't control myself." Prosecutors also produced messages where Anthony admits to getting high and drinking alcohol and even talking about selling drugs to get guns. In 2024, prosecutors say Anthony even attempted to assault a teacher, saying, "I put my hands and face and everything." Also in 2024, messages obtained by prosecutors suggest Anthony tried to bring a weapon into the State Fair of Texas, asking a friend if the State Fair got metal detectors. When he was told yes, his friend responded, "You got the poker?" "Yeah, I might have to toss it," replied Anthony. Prosecutors say Anthony admitted to stealing a watch and earbuds in separate burglaries in Collin County, and also to bringing a weapon onto a Frisco school campus, saying this about his girlfriend: "She went in my bag to get my computer, and I said no, and she still went in it and grabbed it, and my gun and my knife and some other stuff fell out." There are numerous unreleased photos and videos of Anthony holding firearms and making threats, and authorities found a note on Anthony's phone with a long list of disturbing racial tropes and slurs about blacks, whites, and Hispanics. In one message thread, prosecutors say Anthony wrote, "I hate gay people." Prosecutors say Anthony repeatedly threatened to murder his girlfriend in text messages, some of them saying, "How many bullets you want coming out of your chest?" and "I'm going to get you," expletive. He also threatened her with a knife in one message and told her in another, "When I stab somebody, I'm going to lick their blood off the blade." Prosecutors and defense attorneys were able to develop these character reports from a combination of school records, police reports, and cell phone extractions. The hearing is expected to end sometime tomorrow. It will resume at 9 a.m. We know that the first defense witness will be the other trial defense attorney, Toby Shook. In McKinney, J.D. Miles, CBS News, Texas.
Simple fact is, Anderson, we got two cultures down here. White culture and the colored culture. Now, that's the way it always has been. That's the way it always will be.
The rest of America don't see it that way, Mr. Mayor.
The rest of America don't mean jack shit. You in Mississippi now.
It's been 2 weeks now since Tasia Fortune's body was found hanging in a tree behind this house on Road of Remembrance. Monday morning, a group of organizers shut down the street in front of the house to bring attention to what they say is a call for action for men to step up, to get more involved in their community, to make the streets safer.
Black people do not hang themselves. And so we understand that there should be a diligent investigation.
Because of speculation about what happened to Fortune and who may have been involved, groups like the Better Men Society say men need to do more to protect women.
Because for to see this in 2026 is outrageous, and it could have cost so much more. But for a person of interest to be a person that looks like me, that's what's even more hurtful, because you have done what the racists have done to us over years.
As men, we're supposed to take leadership. What our women's got to look up to if we not leading as men.
Organizers invited Mayor John Horn, Police Chief Rochelle Brackney, and 2 city council members to speak at the event. They were all no-shows. An autopsy on Fortune's remains was completed last week, but Jackson police say they have not yet been provided with an official cause and manner of death. Her case remains classified as a death pending investigation. Reporting from Jackson, Ross Adams, 16 WAPT News.
7 Bridges, Isabel Izzy Tishner. We'll get back to them later. Context of White Supremacy. Gus T. Renegade in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the global system of white supremacy. Today's date, Saturday, August 22, 2026. So I have been told. Our weekly counter-racist weekly review, hopefully with constructive, accurate info for victims of white supremacy. One thing before we move forward, we will be broadcasting on Tuesday. It will not be at the usual time. I know sometimes this really confounds listeners. Sometimes people get it with no big deal, and I've even heard a few times where people either in other parts of the world or in different time zones or whatever, because of their schedule, they're not able to tune in live during our typical broadcast time now. But the times where we do have an early broadcast, they are able to listen in live, sometimes even participate. So this Tuesday, August 25th, we will be broadcasting very early. Now, I will say I do not like these times. I'm not a morning person, and just throws off my whole schedule. Like, we've been on for 17 years, and we've been pretty much locked into our broadcast time for like a good decade or so now. So it really kind of throws off my whole rhythm. But hey, as I've said for years, global system of racism. So to compensate for having guests on the program who are in different parts of the world, have to broadcast a little bit earlier. So this Tuesday, August 25, we will be on live at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 10 a.m. Pacific. 2 thumbs down. But we will be on, ready to roll, white guest, but joining us live from the other part of the planet. Looking forward to it. And people's favorite area of people activity, Area 8. Can't wait. But, well, it's early morning, so I'm not exactly excited. But we will get to it. White guest, white guest, white guest. But early time, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 10 a.m. Pacific, Tuesday. Getting to it. Now, massive updates for the Sade Robinson email campaign. I've been talking about this, I think, for a few weeks now. I guess the short of it, again, this is to obtain 2 different sets of public records. The first set, sealed records, letters of support for convicted killer, convicted dismemberer, race soldier Maxwell Anderson. Apparently, X number of individuals. I will assume that these are all white people. When we get the letters, we'll find out if I was in error, and I will immediately concede and retract what I just said and make a correction once we get these letters. But for the time being, I will suspect that exclusively people classified as white wrote in to influence the judge about old Max, that this fella's not so bad and he's all right and all the rest of it. These letters were sealed. This is a public trial according to Wisconsin law. When you write in, offer your unsolicited, volunteered opinion to influence criminal proceedings, all of that is supposed to be public. And to put that in context in terms of why, let's just say, hypothetically, during the trial for Sean P. Diddy Combs. Now, if, let's say, as opposed to us doing the Sade C. Robinson email campaign, let's say we had organized to do a write-in campaign on behalf of Diddy. He is a privileged black male, and he's given us years of all of these great hits and Benjamins and all the rest of it. Hey, we're going to write into the judge that Diddy is a swell fella. he has invested in the cows, and he got us puppies for our birthday one year, and I know all that about the baby oil and everything, but I mean, hey, Diddy is crystal black, and you can't toss him away like some common criminal. He is a swell dude. You go ahead and you can't throw the book at Diddy. You give him a second chance. Gus T. Respectfully, Gus T. And then same way we organize and we get lots of folks, we write in and we say nice things, and did he help me do this, and did he help me change my tire one day, and blah, 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 and all the rest of it. Did he got me a scholarship to Howard, and just, we sing his praises. And so they go through the whole trial, baby oil and all of it, and they get to the end, they say, well, I don't want to embarrass Gus T. People might come and ask him questions, hound him. What you doing caping for Diddy? You don't care about the black female and the people he terrorized and lives he ruined. You don't care. We don't want Gus T., his listeners, to be subject to all that. We will seal all of these letters so people won't know that Gus T. was out here caping to keep Diddy out of greater confinement. We'll seal all that. That's the way that you want to think about that. Gus T. and them trying to influence the judge's thinking. And we're going, shh. We keep all that hushed up, even though that is supposed to be public record with zero expectation of anonymity. Got it? And if anybody can expect that sort of thing would happen, that the judge or anyone else at the courthouse, white people, would see a need to protect the safety of Gus T. We don't want him threatened and doxxed and people out camping on his lawn. Scoundrel, you've been caping for dinner. We don't want to subject him to all that, so we'll keep all this sealed. Do you think they would do that? Okay. Anyway, that is what this here is about. Particularly, that's just the first easy question that I said. How many white people wrote a letter of support for Max? 5? 10? 50. And who are these people? Do they work at the courthouse? Do they work at the police department? You have to tell me. I'm president, owner of the Milwaukee Bucks. That's what I'm the import. Just those questions alone. How many letters people wrote in? And then who are these people? Ain't said nothing about go smack them around or nothing like that. Just that, and even it made me think because, hey, remember, Gus T. was in Milwaukee for the trial. I was in court every day. I literally could have sat on the side with the Max Anderson supporters. It was wide open. His dad was there. His stepmom was there. I think maybe one or two other people, but I mean, compared to the Sade C. Robinson side, where they had rows and rows and rows of people who were there to support them every day, Max didn't really have a whole lot of folks. So it would give one, just looking at the courtroom, that he didn't have no homies. That's not true. Even reminded me during the trial, Max's white roommate, Max's white girlfriend, all these folks suspected racists, of course. They got up on the witness stand like white weasels and tell me, hey, I don't want my name. You ain't gonna put that. I told you this was streamed on YouTube. That's what I'm saying. Like, what do you mean sealed? This was on YouTube. And for his old weasel white friends to get rid of, whoa. Now, me and Max done slept in the same bed and ate off the same plate. Some of them had sexual activity, and I'd have known him for years, and we done slept in the same house, and I known he was a criminal, violent thug, beat up his own family. I knew all that, but we were still thick and thin. We were pretty cool. But yeah, now make sure you don't say my name, because I don't want people to know that me and Max was cool or roommates or he was my boyfriend and none of that. I got reputation to uphold. And I said, man, I said this back then. You can go back and listen to the trial coverage. I said then, that is appalling. This was your dude for all the same thing I say about the letters. Like, man, unsealed. Let's see it. No way. Like, are you serious? This was, you supposed to have your chest out. This was my dude, thick and thin, and we used to go to the bars together and swap Jeff Dahmer stories. Man, this is your dude. This is your dude. Even at the sentencing, his old weasel, cowardly white dad and white stepmom, they didn't even come the last day for the sentencing. Excuse me, for the verdict. The verdict. They didn't even show up. They were there for the sentencing. The verdict. They didn't even show up. They didn't even show up. That was the shortest day of the trial. They could have left Earth. Nope. No, this one ain't gonna go. Ain't looking good. But that's one for the letters of support. The other component about what this campaign is addressing is the voir dire. Now, this, I was there. The jury selection is the only part that was not televised. You had to be there, which I was. You had to be there to get this. The report on the jury selection has information that would not be available to you even if you sat front row for the trial, as did Gus T. There's information in this report that you would not be privy to that might help explain why there were only 2 black jurors on this trial. How did we end up with 9 white people on a jury in Milwaukee? White people are not the majority, like not even close. Like the population of Milwaukee is not even 40% white. How are there 9 white people on this jury? There might be details in the voir dire jury report, jury selection report, that would help understand all of that. That's why we want and even other pertinent details, but that's why and both of these are public records. I can't emphasize that enough. The sealed letters of support, I made a motion to unseal these letters back in May. We are at August. The letters are still sealed. The Milwaukee judge, denied my letter to unseal earlier this month, but all of the corruption and racism that I had experienced from the time I started all of this in Milwaukee up to August, by then, I expected that to happen. I had already planned out, this is what to do when they reject the motion. Bang! I already had my paperwork together, and boom, boom, boom. If I had not been sick, I probably would have filed the same day that they issued the motion. I was delayed just because of my illness and, going back and getting all this together. But, oh man, just the fact that before I got sick, I had already planned out. They are going to continue their racism, and this is white women. This is not no white dudes in the court. No, all the way through, because the judge in this case was a white woman, Laura Cravello. Ain't nothing honorable in Milwaukee, Dahmerland, but white women. I expected this, so I filed a writ with the appellate court in Madison, the capital city of Wisconsin. Thumbs down Badgers. And man, it is, at least in my view, all the attention, national attention on Madison that just popped up for Corey Ruiz, racism, white supremacy, and my writ just arrived days ago. I cannot wait for the more powerful white people in the state capitol to review these records. And they even had Representative Stubbs, black female, who was with the campaign with Ms. Scarborough. She, unlike Max's parents, she was at the trial for the verdict. She spoke afterwards about getting that task force for missing and murdered black females in Wisconsin. I've been emailing her as well throughout this whole time to keep her abreast of what has been happening. But she was there for the trial, and I'm looking forward to sharing all of this information in terms of updates once They can review the folks in Madison once they can review. That was it. Miss Stubbs, she was in Madison to talk about the task force, but I cannot wait for the people in Madison to review the record of corruption, lies, misconduct. It is. Hopefully I won't even have to say a word. They can just look at the written record and their conduct since from April to now, and that should be enough. I'll be able to go into more. There'll probably be a whole program once we get to the conclusion of all this, whatever this is, and however long it takes. It might take. There might be suspected racists in Madison. The corruption may continue. Already thought about that. Plan to continue. So this is just until justice. Somebody has an email like that. But until, and this is small j justice, until we get those sealed records and until we get the transcript. I have been updating the email campaign, and I have some evidence that the email campaign may be effective. I had a listener, investor, share literally minutes before we went live. I've encouraged folks, send 2-4 emails a day. Let them know there are many, many people concerned across the continent, across the world. We remember Sade C. Robinson. These are public documents. Release them. Ms. Scarborough should have all of this information, and the general public. But I'd been saying that. Listener emailed me and said they got a notification that suggests one of these public officials blocked his email. I said, oh my goodness, that is amazing, and hopefully we'll get lots of listeners who get some sort of notification that suggests you have been blocked. That is super favorable for us. These are all public officials. It is my understanding, unless I've been misinformed, they cannot block. We even went through some of this with President Trump, with X and social media. They cannot block citizens from writing, especially it's not threatening. That's why I said just keeping it professional. No profanities and filth flooring. We're not trying to sound like Sue Africa. We're just making a lawful request from law-abiding citizens. Can you please release these public records? Some of them paid for public records. Why is that worthy of an email block? I wouldn't care if you wrote 50. Hey, you know what would stop the emails? Release those records. But if you get a bounce back notification, looks like they're saying you're blocked or what have you, they can't deliver. Oh yeah, please forward that exact email to me. I believe that would strengthen our case, because that's what the whole thing has been about. Suppression of these records, suppression of this people's citizens' voice. Suppression of we're going to steal funds and deny you redress. Corruption through and through. Concealment through and through. And all of this for what? A convicted white killer? A convicted white dismemberer? A convicted white arsonist? In my mind, a convicted white racist. That's who you caping for? Worse than Diddy, in my opinion. Way worse. Way worse. Anyway, but that's the email campaign. Again, I have all of the information. Please take 5 minutes. I already told you, apparently we're having an impact because folks are getting blocked. So keep sending those emails. If you've not sent an email, it really only takes about 5 minutes. Drop me an email, untiljustice@gmail.com. I will happily send you the exact pre-written email. That's why I said we're not cursing and yelling and all of that. Pre-written all the work you have to do is sign your name, put the date on it, and you can put your geographic location so that they know people from all over the world are looking and concerned and want these public records. But that's it, and then you can send it. I think it's like 7 email addresses that are listed. Write them down, send it to them all, and then, like I said, hey, once you send it one time, oh man, now it's super easy because you can just come back and send it again. Send it to everybody. You can just, hey, be an all-star and update the date. Your signature wouldn't change, right? Just update the date. Still concerned when we get to Monday, August 24th. Hey, I'm still concerned because them records ain't been released until justice, small j. Now, the other component of the update, what shall I say? Nothing to celebrate. This was nothing where we got to woo and have an award show and get sweet potato pie and not exactly, but helpful. And I would say I remember this is maybe close to 15 years ago. Someone wrote on social media and they asked victims of racism if there was another victim of racism classified as black. You didn't particularly get along with this person. Maybe you all had conflict, but this is not your favorite victim of racism. And somehow, some way, you ended up being in a position where you could do something that is constructive for them. It would help them solve a problem or whatever the case may be. You could do it. It wouldn't cost you anything, major. Might take a little bit of time. We say a little bit of time, something like less than 30 minutes. Small amount. Like I've been saying for the email campaign, I've been saying 5 minutes, right? Small amount of time and energy, so it really wouldn't be an imposition on you to do this, but it would be helpful to this victim of racism who maybe you've had conflict with. You don't particularly enjoy this person's company. Might even be some hostility between you two. Would you still do the helpful thing? And apparently this generated a lot of discussion and thought, and I even drift back to Mr. Fuller saying, we don't like each other, talking about victims of racism. I might be wrong. My memory seemed a lot of people, they might have to think about whether they would do that constructive task or not. They'd have to think about it. With Miss Scarborough, I said, you can go back in the archives, check my record. Last summer, about this time, I shared that I upset Miss Scarborough, that I shared a post about, it was from Wisconsin Public Radio and other sources, where they were talking about Wisconsin has an especially high rate of alcohol-related deaths. And I shared it with Miss Scarborough because I said, hey, I view Sade C. Robinson as an alcohol-related death. They were taking, her white killer was taking her to all these bars. That's what we watched in the trial last year. And she had civil suits against all of these bars as well. So I think of this as, and I believe she met Maxwell Anderson the first time. He was at his job at a bar, and she was underage. So I view this as an alcohol-related death. I could be in error. But I sent her this report. And I mentioned Jeffrey Dahmer as well. Jeffrey Dahmer, alcoholic, and anyway. And so she was very upset about that. And she suggested that I had been doing something incorrect, using the legacy and name of Sade C. Robinson to illicitly earn funds or profit in some way. You all heard, or perhaps if you can go back in the archives, Ms. Scarborough was a guest on our platform last year at the C.O.W.S, and she announced that she was awarding us a $500 grant from her foundation, Sade's Voice Foundation.org, that she was awarding us a $500 grant for helping out and all of that. And I was stunned, humbled, but I felt kind of bad. Like, man, I did not intend to strong arm rob Miss Scarborough in this whole process. Like, that was just not part of the thought process in all of this. And I said immediately, like, we need to give that money back. Like, you robbing victims? Like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, give that back immediately. I said that immediately. And so once she said that, I refunded the entire $500. And she was still upset. And I announced on the air, man, even if that had been my mom, it can't be both. If you're upset saying I'm trying to illicitly get these funds and you get a full refund and you're still upset about that, about getting the refund, like, can't win, Anyway, so she was very upset and used some profanity and was very discourteous in our conversation. Again, I upset her. Same thing I said last year. Gus T, 99.5% to blame. The 0.5% to Miss Scarborough. She is a grieving mother, so I mean, dang, she is allowed to get upset. So I use codification, minimize contact, because even with all that, I am a victim of white supremacy, and it's not healthy for me to be cursed at. I think someone does say no cursing and name-calling people classified as black, always starting with yourself. And I don't like being falsely accused. I think lots of us can relate to that. Yes, Dr. Jason Arday, people who are listening to the archives maybe 50 years later, if we haven't solved this problem, maybe you can look up the tragedy of Dr. Jason Arday. But I'm sure will be super accurate and helpful 50 years from now. Anyway, so I minimized contact. I had not spoken to her, called her, emailed her, anything of that nature. Just minimize contact and continue moving forward. Now, once I began with all of these motions and such in this case, from the very beginning, I said, now, if you get these letters, you will immediately share with Miss Scarborough, of course. And in the transcript as well, jury selection report, both public records, those as well. You get them immediately. Share with Miss Scarborough. No hemming and hawing, immediately. Absolutely. I even shared when my motion was filed and approved and I got the paperwork from the judge. I shared that as well because I thought that was important. Like, oh man, this is on the public ledger, and let her know that there's movement in her daughter's case and all of that. She did respond. It was not courteous. Totally irrelevant because I shipped a message that I think they call these fire and forget messages. They do not require a response. It totally does not matter if the person writes back, you are the greatest journalist ever. I love you to pieces. Oh my goodness. Or filth, florin, filth, you no count coon. It both is about the same. Message received, moving forward. And that was the exact stance that I took and executed. Now, when the storage unit theft happened in July that I reported on, Sade Robinson's belongings stolen mid-July. Well, we don't know when they were stolen. The theft was reported in mid-July. I was stunned. Said her valuables and keepsakes. They interviewed Miss Scarborough, played that report. I was stunned. It took me a few days. I filed to obtain the police report for the storage unit. I'm supposed to be a thorough journalist about all of that and examining what's happening with the case and all that. I got the police report and got it rather quickly too, which even more contrast. I've been asking for the paid written jury selection report since April. It's almost September and I don't have them. The storage unit robbery just happened in July. Within 30 days, I got the police report, and this is an ongoing investigation. That is courthouse corruption. Anyway, I got the report immediately. The first thing I said was not, that old no count Miss Scarborough, you better have your research together and get this yourself. I did not think that. In fact, I thought the exact same thing when I had this decision plopped on me this time last year. this time, or not this time, it's a little bit earlier, so spring of 2025, I got a massive rack of court documents around the Sade Robinson case. Massive rack. This was before I'd even decided that I was going to go to cover the trial. I contacted Miss Scarborough and I said, do you have these documents? She said, no. I said, do you want these documents? I said, yes, I've been trying to get some of these and they had been difficult. I said, pause. Send immediately. She said, oh man, do you want me to put something on your Cash App? I said, Jesus Christ. Oh, like I would have been, I said this on the air. I said, I would have felt like the coon of the year if I had to come here and tell you all, yes, I made Miss Scarborough victim of racism, whose daughter was slaughtered and dismembered. They don't even have her skull. Yes, I demanded that she compensate me for giving her the trial records for her daughter's death. Coon of the decade. So a year later, even not having contact with her, I get the police report, and this is public. It's in the report. Any of you all could do this. Man, I got that police report, and I just glanced and said, oh, my Lord, the police valued this as a $500,000 loss or theft. I was speechless. Not that I guess I just didn't have an idea of the value of what, and I mean, hey, you took a life here. That is bargain basement value for the life of Sade C. Robinson. But man, and I guess it hit me a little different because I've been doing a number of FOIA requests this year specifically about deliberate racist targeting of storage units. High value. Like you had specific details about these storage units to efficiently go. And some of these have involved white supremacist arms thefts in addition to Sade Robinson's valuables. I was staggered. I said immediately, and I had the thought process from last year that Miss Robinson said that these white people are making it difficult for me to obtain records. I said, oh yes, given what I've experienced this year, yes, I am sure the racist whites in Milwaukee are making it very difficult to get information. I said, I wouldn't be surprised if she does not yet have this report. It's only been 30 days since the storage theft happened. So I said, I suspect she probably does not have this report. I will send it to her immediately, which is what I did. This time, I did get a courteous response, and I will emphasize it was exactly the same. What did I say? Fire and forget. And I almost just said, I kept it concise. Here's the police report for the storage unit theft. Justice for Sade. Thought you should have this for your records. I know the history of those folks, making it difficult for you to obtain records. We'll continue working to get those sealed letters of support and the transcript. If I get them, when I get them, I will pass them along immediately. Justice for Sade. Fire and forget. Does not require a response, reply, thank you, nothing. Keep it moving. But she did respond courteously. She was very thankful. And as I suspected, she did not have this report. They generally make it very difficult. I would think, like, if you are the victim, you should automatically get the report immediately. Nah. Anyway, I have updated Miss Scarborough about the writ. Actually, updated Miss Scarborough and her attorney, Miss Swanigan, for the civil trial so that she could explain all of the jurisprudence and legal mumbo jumbo to Miss Scarborough about the writ process and what this is, and even the import of this for their civil trial to get these letters and the jury selection report, all of that, but shared all of that. Again, in my view, counter-racist lesson. What are we doing all of this for? to take things personal and have our petty grudges and, yeah, I'm not going to do all that. What are you doing? Why even cover the Sade Robinson case? Replace white supremacy with justice. In my view, don't be a party to white people who work to conceal constructive information from non-white people. The people who need the most help, do not be a party to that. Justice for Sade. Send those emails and let me know if you get blocked. That is great news for us. And then keep emailing. If you have not sent an email until justice@gmail.com, I will hook you up with all you need to know. One more thing, then we'll get to some of the reports that we shared in. It really has been another job. All of this in Milwaukee has been a part, an annoying part, should have been very short and done, of what I am calling my multi-front counter-racist for master forensic audit. Gotta include that. Multi-front counter-racist master forensic audit. So this entails the situation in Milwaukee to get all of these public records. This also entails a massive load of FBI FOIA requests, started with one, Dr. Welsing. Now it is massive, just massive, and other agencies within all of that. Just, wow, lots. It really could be, that would be like a job unto itself, because so much of it is responding to emails and firing back and mail and blah, blah, blah. Lots of that. So much time and energy with the Milwaukee portion of this. But anyway, hopefully we will begin to make some progress with this, or we will start to see the payoff of exactly all the work that has been invested in this forensic audit since the springtime. Like, this has been going on intensely for about 4 or 5 months now. Hopefully we will really start to plug and get major drops of records. I will say this week, man, there were a few details, great updates, what have you, not in terms of actual files, but updates that will be helpful in obtaining, hopefully, lots of files. We'll have to see. But one of the updates, as it relates to Dr. Welsing, when I got her personal file, FBI personal file earlier this year, whole program about that, a little less than 50 pages approximately, I knew, just based on logic, if they have all of this data and you have been snooping on Dr. Welsing since she was 19 years old, and you got informants on her, and you've been breaking in her mail and tracking her all across the continent when she's 19, trying to get her fired when she is basically a college intern and a lab technician, you all have got to have like mountains of files on Dr. Welsing for her entire life. She went to Germany. There wasn't even anything in the files that they gave me about that. That was in the 50s. All the ISIS papers, the first report, white genetic annihilation, debating William Shockley, Nobel Prize winner, being on TV. She published a lot of newspaper and magazine articles and journal articles and lectures, and she went out of the country, South Africa and the UK, and on TV and Donahue and college lecture. They would have mountains of files on all of that. They might have even had an informant at all of the Welsing lectures for decades. Decades. I said that from looking at that file. They've got to have mountains, and I mean like mountains. Thousands of pages on Dr. Welsing. They sent me in writing an update this week. Oh my God. Crates and crates of files just on Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, which I already knew But it is very different to get that in writing, because now when you put it in writing and you got the actual codes for all of these crates and like what I'm waiting on, what they do when they start processing all this information, they give you the page count. Buddy, one, this isn't even complete. When they gave me the roster, I just started looking at all these codes. Now that I'm more informed about how to read the FBI's racist coding of their documents, I immediately knew this is incomplete. You all are missing whole code, but it did further confirm they tracked her across the continent for decades. You go to New York, we can watch you have a whole team just in New York. You go to D.C., we have a whole team just in D.C. You still go back to see your family in Chicago, we have a whole team just in Chicago. You go to college in Antioch, that's in Ohio, we got a whole team just in Ohio. And on and on and on. That's why I said, like, I need to see the whole file. Like, so when she went to Germany, did you all have a team watching her there? I would think you had to, right? And on and on and on. Like, let's get the page count for Dr. Welsing. If I had to take the over-under at 5,000 pages, I would have to take over. Do I think it's going to be over under 5,000 pages? I would have to take over. I would have to take over because there's too many. They might have whole shelves, whole silos just on Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, who many people for decades said, you are crazy. You don't even know what you're talking about. Like I said, I had people, black cows guests. Isn't she crazy? Isn't she the one talking about aliens and E.T.? You mean, isn't she the one that J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI have stacked thousands of pages of paper? None of the pages that I have seen thus far have said, this chick is crazy. This chick is talking about aliens. I ain't seen nothing that said that so far. I have seen subversive in all capital letters. I've seen that bunches of times. Not crazy. Cannot wait to get at the page count. How many pages do you have on Dr. Welsing? I'm already putting on the record over under 5,000 pages. I'm taking the over. And it's incomplete. So even put that on the record as well, because this is not the whole record. So if this page count comes back at something 4,999 or 4,000, 3,000, hey, this is incomplete. Reserve the right to revisit when they complete the record. If that takes months, years, whatever it is, whole record. Once we get everything, let's get the page count. Over under at 5,000, I'm taking the over. Whew. So excited for the update on that one. Let's see. Okay. The specific, and Buffalo, I forgot. Those three really alone, like pretty nice uncovers in Milwaukee, hopefully with lots more to come. File updates for Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, which could be historic because they might have lots of pictures and precise details about things she was doing, like a fundamental reframing of Dr. Frances Cress Welsing's life, legacy, work, in my opinion, with these files. But we shall see. And getting that on the record so that hopefully that will be for my safety. Now, Buffalo, I said I had resigned to not go back to Buffalo for the federal death penalty trial of Peyton Gendron, because it was supposed to be right now, and juggling so much with the audit and then getting sick and just didn't seem like it was going to work. For the second time since I have been thinking about going back to Buffalo to cover the federal trial, it got delayed. Now, in some circles, that might be providence. It might be totally irrelevant. I will at least submit. I think the universe is saying, Gus T, you do need to finish your assignment, small a, cover the federal trial, and get all the same thing with Milwaukee. Get all of the details. Even you all can ask yourself, how many black people do you hear talking about Buffalo? Even amongst, hey, folks that want to brag and foundational black, and I was born, we need to focus on black people born here. Okay. Tops. I don't think these were black immigrants and Haitians and Jamaicans and black Brits and black Canadians who done snuck over the Niagara Falls. These are black people born right here. Grady Lewis, we talked to him. He was born in Buffalo. We should be concerned about this, yes? Went and killed 10 black people, was hoping to kill more. Deliberate race soldier attack, white terrorism. We should be concerned about. Do you hear people talking about this? Peyton Gendron going to get the death penalty. And more importantly, hey, this is the dump. This is why I wanted to go originally for the state trial. Let's get the info. Who helped this dude? How did he put all this together? How was it financed? Who helped this dude? All of that should come out in the trial. That was why I went the first time. Invest. If we think Gus T should be back in Buffalo, could be kind of pricey because they said 2 months. I really would not want to be in Buffalo in cold months for 2 months, but I mean, this is business. Important business. Don't you think the TOPS federal death penalty trial, don't you think that should be covered? And get in the courtroom and give updates every day. Live time counter-racist coverage of the Peyton Gendron trial that will not be televised. That even more important. For Sade Robinson, I said I didn't have to go, even though I did have to go for the jury selection component. That was not televised, so that was one part that I had to be there to see it. But the rest of it I could have stayed and watched on to a degree, I guess. Anyway, mostly I could have seen. There were some things that definitely you had to be there in the courtroom. I think even they didn't do the graphic images, so you had to be there to see that. So I guess there were quite a few components, important components, that being there was way more important than watching on TV. That won't be an option in Buffalo. The federal trial will not be televised, Gil Scott. Gus T needs to be there for this one. Live updates. Let us know what a .22 caliber killer, man. Invest in sending Gus T to Buffalo. Hopefully I'll have some more FBI documents to impress with Gus T's sterling efforts for 2026. Like, wow, he really has been on it. Yes, get to Buffalo and do work. That is the plan in cold, lame Buffalo. Ick. Okay, news reports. Hit the blog racism-notes.blogspot.com. PayPal button in the top right corner. You'll see the buttons, links below for Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. Much obliged for all the folks who have invested, kept us on the air, hopefully sending Gus T to Western New York again. Now, oh my gosh, that report about the repeal of cannabis in Massachusetts. Kevin Sabet, I believe he is classified as white. I will have to double check. I could be in error. Shout to the Grandcestor, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Oh my, almost everything she talked about, Kevin Sabet brought up in that report from just this week. He started it with, in fact, they lied to us. Who is the they, I wonder? Usual suspects. Maybe we can ask Kevin Sabet. Who is the they? He said we got more dangerous roads. said we were supposed to get a big tax boost from all of this. We done lost productivity in the workplace. He said we were supposed to have black people, non-white people, entrepreneurs, even, in fact, I was told by C.O.W.S listeners, hey, we can grow our own. We don't need no dispensary. Once it's recreational, we have our own plants in the backyard. I've been in Washington State for the whole time they've had recreational cannabis. So that's back to 2012, 14 years. I have not seen no explosion of just regular citizens with ganja trees in their backyard, or, you know, we're going to do some radical gardening and growing my own ganja. I ain't seen none of that. Most people, as I thought, they just go to what they call the highly commercialized dispensaries. That's what I've seen. And they said highly commercialized dispensaries that are owned by these big corporate conglomerates. Sound just like tobacco. Super high potency. Dr. Wellesley, you don't know what's in it. And that's something we've been talking about the whole time through. All those folks way back when, man, we need all this, and this is going to work against racism, and, you know, we can get black people out of prison, and all this old nonsense, which they said, all of that is a lie, as I thought it would be. Are we going out of the business of racism? Why don't you just do that, as opposed to we got to put a cannabis shop on every corner? But the super high potency, I'd said all along, man, like, if you're thinking, like, ganja from 1960s, reefer from 1970s, if you think, get that out of your brain computer. Like, man, grandpa, grandma, that is not 2026. When they were talking about all that with the dabs and the wax and all the rest of it, man, they were talking about 90% potent THC. Matter of fact, pause. They just had the FIFA tournament here in Seattle. Before they had the gun battle at Seattle Center beneath the Space Needle, they were sending out warnings, advisories to international visitors and even domestic travelers. Hey, now we know we got the recreational reefer here in the Pacific Northwest. Be careful. We got all that super potent ganja here. You don't want to mess your trip up. You done came all the way over here from Cameroon or wherever else, and Belgium, and oh man, you go in there and get that 99% potent wax and all the rest of it, and you done forgot where you is. Now, does that sound like we heading towards universal man, universal woman? Come on. Come on. All of that. And children getting all of the, we had talked about, we had parents, educators on here saying, dang, the dispensaries, they got all these old crazy names for the products. Cookies and cream, Fruity Pebbles. Who are they marketing this to? Sound like you want the children to come in and think this is Pause for Cameron Graham. Say, who is Cameron Graham? We're doing all this talking about North Carolina for Robert and Mabel Williams. Cameron Graham, 16 years old, just got killed in the school lavatory. What were they doing? Brawling over a THC vape pen. That's them new concoctions of the reefer. Say, wait a minute. They don't even have recreational cannabis in North Carolina. No, they don't. But 16-year-old Cameron Graham dead, fighting over, stabbed to death over a THC vape pen in a high school lavatory. The children, indeed. We talked about, Dr. Welsing talked about all that. We talked about all that way back when we were lied to, as Kevin Sabet said, lied. This ganja recreational legalization is going to be great, man. It's going to get black people out of prison. We're going to get black entrepreneurs. It's going to be awesome. We're going to be great, man. You get the ganja and you can think better, and it's got all the medicinal properties. Get out of here. I am so eager to see what happens in Massachusetts. Now, that's even interesting because that's one of them states where ultra white. You can't say they're trying to repeal this. At least I wouldn't think we're going to repeal this as an act of racism, white supremacy, because this got so many black people out of greater confinement in Massachusetts. You got Jason Tatum up there. How many black people they got in Massachusetts? I think you probably got exactly what Kevin Sabet said. You got probably a large constituency of people classified as white in Massachusetts who we've been lied to. The ganja ain't helped us at all. Should have listened to Dr. Welsing in 2013. Gus T in 2013. Oh my Lord. Putting that with Penn State. Oh my. They are known, for people who don't keep up with Penn State, and all you know about them is Jerry Sandusky raping children. Right on. But Penn State, Happy Valley, they are known, the football team, for doing a white out. They normally wear blue and white for their colors, but when they do their white out, the football team wears their all white uniforms, and all of the fans in the crowd wear all white. So it is a monochromatic spectacle of white. That will have a very different connotation for the foreseeable future. They shouldn't even do it this year, really. Wouldn't be, in that poor taste. Have people out there throwing flour up, and then they cut them. We just do the blue this year. We ain't gonna do the white out. We do the blue out this year. Just we'll bring it back a little while later. It's too soon, and drug free. We want to be sober. We're gonna be sober. We're gonna be sober. Micah Parsons rolling over in his grave. Lord Jesus. Man, before I even say a word about all of that at Happy Valley, we had a listener write in. I posted about this incident, the cocaine at Penn State, big arrest and all of that, all of these white students, unless I'm in error, but I mean, they posted pictures of all of these folks who got arrested, so I'm pretty sure these are, none of these folks look like Barack Obama, Lil Weezy, Kamala Harris. None of these folks, they didn't look like any. These look like Joe Biden's cousins, grandchildren. Let's see. Listener wrote in, wrote. I posted about, when this story broke, I posted the New York Times article on all this. And listener said, this is like a movie. I know there are other universities that are engaged in drug trafficking. This news should be front and center, but again, it's not. This is a major story. Imagine if the Chinese or Indian students were involved. Non-white students, I suspect. And I saw this, and I immediately replied, this story has been front and center. I posted this from the New York Times, where it was front page. This was reported on NPR. This was reported on the BBC. So now we're talking around the world. CBS, ABC, People Magazine, and certainly all of the outlets in Pennsylvania. They covered. And the LA Times, I forgot. Other side of the continent. They cover this as well. So in my view, it has been widely covered. Like, you would have to totally not check the news at all to think that this has not been covered, has not been front, center, talked about in detail, and even the racial implications of all of this. It has been discussed. I would submit, making a request, and I hear this consistently from people classified as black who do not check the news, and I've talked to tons, it's in the C.O.W.S archives, tons of people classified as black who brag about not checking the news. And it'll be some form of, I don't read no New York lies and all of Whitey's news lies, and they not even going to tell and talk about it and all that. I get my news from such and such on the Instagram or the YouTube or wherever. And sometimes it'll be a black source that they'll say where they talk and give, whatever information on YouTube. And I've said, for years, VGQ, Victims Guaranteed Qualified, but even these folks that are talking on YouTube and Instagram or what have you, if they are speaking in an accurate, constructive manner about events and things that happen in the world, where are they getting their information from? They're going to have to go and read the New York Times, the BBC, whatever it is. I doubt very seriously they have their own press corps of reporters where they can send people out to Happy Valley to go and talk to everybody and ask questions and who are these students and interview Penn State students and did you know about this and go ask the arresting officers and all the rest. I doubt very seriously. So where are they getting their information from? Same as me. Go read BBC, New York Times, see what they say. You could do that. Cut out the middle person. They're processing it for you. And a lot of that, in my view, is entertainment. To hear someone talking about the news and maybe they can do so in an entertainment, jokey manner, that is not news. That's kind of Bill Maher, where he's doing entertainment, where he's making jokes, and sometimes even having some of these people on, Kamala Harris that I mentioned, Joe Biden. But still, a lot of it is to be entertaining and tell jokes. That is very different from you actually going and reading a report. And I say this because I hear this all the time. Like, I can even think of specific examples. I've heard this so many times. The wildfires in California last year and the impact on black people. I was talking about that, talking to a person who, just for the record, does not live even close to the West Coast, but they said that they didn't know anything about the black people being impacted by the wildfires, and their conclusion was, this is not being talked about in the press. I immediately said, that is not true. NPR has covered this. 60 Minutes covered this. PBS covered this. The New York Times covered this, which is the opposite side of the continent. The LA Times has had many articles about this from day one all the way to present. It has been widely reported, and independent journalists have talked about it as well. Yours truly, the LA Sentinel. I could go on and on. I said, oh, wow, I didn't know. Okay, well, don't say they haven't talked about it if you don't follow the news. Don't say just, I didn't hear about this. That would be the correct assessment. I remember there was a listener who said, I wanted information or books on maroon resistance in Jamaica, but nobody writes books about that. That's something I think we need more information on. I'm not in Jamaica. I looked on the catalog at the University of Washington, which anybody in the world could pull up on their phone, laptop. I looked on their catalog and I just used the words that they had. Maroon Resistance Jamaica. I got approximately 10,000 hits. Books, articles, all kinds of information. And I said, man, like, did you look for this? Like, really? 10,000 hit, all kinds of information. I've had this experience consistently with people classified as black. I'm not saying other people don't do it, but wow, it seems to be very widespread. We don't research or don't seek out serious information. We are not informed about things that are serious, and then when this information is brought to our attention, the excuse immediately is not, I'm poorly informed, I don't check the news, or even just I didn't know about this. No problem. No penalty for that. Now you know. They don't report about this. They've been keeping this from us. And in my view, it's important because sometimes that is true. There is suppression in Milwaukee. They are suppressing these records. In fact, even I said that about the Sade Robinson case when it first happened. It was not widely reported. 60 Minutes didn't talk about Sade Robinson. NPR didn't talk about Sade Robinson. So sometimes that is true. But it really blunts that charge if you just say that every time, when it would take 30 seconds. Okay, they do got the Penn State thing on the front page of the New York Times. Like, okay. They also had in the LA Times. Okay. So, okay, this was talked about quite a bit. I'm waiting on court TV, really, to get the Penn State so we can get all the details and such. Because, man, this here, they covered it enough to get that Paul Robinson, white attorney in Pennsylvania, his white spawn son is one of these white people who's accused of all this cocaine smuggling and hazing, and we gonna make the recruits pack bricks of cocaine. What? Old Paul Robinson said, "You're not gonna ruin my young boy's life. I'm gonna go sneak out the evidence." What? It is wild. Like, yes, I have heard lots of different cases of drug selling, drug smuggling at colleges and universities. Michelle Alexander, she told us, hey, I and my white friends and friends of color, we snorted all kinds of coke, reefer, jumped off the roof. We acted a fool. She told us. At Stanford, all the rest of it, Vanderbilt, we acted a fool. Ain't nobody got no record, felony, and we got check the box and all that and can't get no apartment at it. That ain't us. No, we got great careers and write lame books and make lots of money. Man, great life, man. Great life. Now, Jamal and them, on the other hand, even I would say these lads at Penn State, like, man, what's going to happen here? Do they get lenient sentencing? And does dad get charged with obstruction of justice and all the rest of it, tampering with evidence? That's why I said, I'm waiting for court TV. What happens here? Woo! Jesus Christ. But this is another one I would for sure point out, even going to a predominantly white institution, even at a high school level. Man, maybe it's all right if you're going to be kind of nerdish. Maybe you don't need to go to all the parties and feel bad because you're not in the in crowd and they don't invite you to all of the bashes. And then, hey, look at Nolan Wells. Lots of reasons not to party with white, because you might be you at the party and they say, hey, let's jump off the roof. Say, no, I don't want to jump off the roof. No, you gonna jump off the roof. No, I don't want to jump off the roof. And then you don't jump off the roof, but you go flying off the roof. That type of thing. Lots of reasons. I'm not gonna party with no white, but I said white people and alcohol, white people in cocaine, white people in reefer. Horrendous combinations. What does it mean to be good? And even with the Penn State thing, it's so many layers of racism in that. When they finally made the raid to go get these lads, both fraternities, they said one of the little white fellas, race soldiers, he thought that this was some sort of prank. See, Columbine, he thought this was some sort of fraternity joke. And he said, oh, good one, guys. Good one, guys. You got the SWAT uniforms and everything. Good job. Man, back up off me. You don't put no cuffs on me. That's a good one. That's a good one, guy. Where's the camera at? Petey, you in the back? Man, they done broke in and made it look like we get good job, man. Good job, man. Back up, man. You don't put the cuffs on me, man. Come on. Y'all ain't got to be that serious, man. You don't be pushing me around. And don't point that gun at me either, man. Y'all acting silly, man. Come on out with the front. Pete, you in here, man? This is the best prank ever, man. They're going to come in like, oh, try and arrest and bust us talking about we smuggling cocaine. Get out of here, man. Can you imagine in any earth, Jamal, Devontae, they break in to arrest us, privileged black males, and we smack the cuffs away and all that because we think this is some kind of joke. Y'all been put up and pranking us. Get out of here. You're talking about what? They would have beat us to death to show how serious this is. You talk about nigger knocker. Man, come on. Come on. What does it mean to be white? The Facebook Mark Zuckerberg trials, that right there would be one. I would get that. If you have offspring, why is it wait as long as possible to give your child a smartphone? This is why. They said as dangerous, addictive as cigarettes. All the mental health problems and suicide, and we ain't even get to all of the catfishing, and they talked about all the pedophiles that get on Meta, use this to swap child pornography and target children, see if they can meet them online, do some sort of sexual abduction and that sort of thing. They didn't even get to all of that. This is why. Wait as long as possible to giving your child a smartphone. And like I said, I would sit and talk to them about all of this. This is why. And asking them, does this come up with your peers? Addiction to all of this and suicidal thoughts and all the rest of it. Does this come up? People that you talk to in school and such? Ask them and just see what they say. But this would be why. Dumb phone, yes, if it's for a safety reason, but I mean, Mark Zuckerberg is not our friend. Let's see. The section where they talked about, now they didn't say racism. They said immigrants, Asian, Muslim in Texas, all of this hostility. They didn't say racism. Now, when they listed the exact geographic locations, Frisco, McKinney, all these areas that are in the metro Dallas area, basically, I said, man, McKinney, do you all remember, it was a little over a decade ago, they had a case, it was black males. One of them was in a tragic arrangement with a white woman. The white woman, to get back at this black male, called the police. This was in McKinney, called the police and told them that these black males were outside, that they were being rowdy, threatening, and she told them that they had said that they would kill the police if anybody called them. Police roll up on the scene, 5-6 deep. They have all of their heavy SWAT gear and everything out, guns aimed. They force these black males on the ground at gunpoint on their own property while the white woman is in the car snickering. We had one of the black male victims as a guest on the program back in 2014 to discuss all that, but that's in McKinney, Texas. We'll get back to Frisco later. But they didn't say racism. And they talked about, we don't want all Sharia law here and all, no count Muslim, this sort of sentiment in Texas. I said, man, all this should be put in context of James Lowen, sundown towns. Dallas was talked about prominently there and having lots of sundown pockets, racially restricted regions all around Dallas where they didn't allow black people. These are supposed to be little havens for white people. And even one of the books that authors that we had on the program, book that we discussed, White Metropolis, talking about the years and history of white supremacy racism in Dallas and the surrounding areas. Talked about that, and even how that factors into the assassination of John F. Kennedy, carried out, we were theorizing, carried out by very powerful racists, many of them anchored right to that Dallas region. Would still be anchored to that region today, in fact. But all of that, I think, would give much better context for why they're having this sort of experience, these non-white people, the so-called, all of that about them being Muslim and the curry and got that Muslim spot. Non-white people. That is the problem. The second, when we heard that report from Mumia about solitary confinement, we read live from death row on the Catherine Massey Book Club. I do not recall him talking about his punitive experience because he refused to cut his hair. Maybe my memory is bad. It's been a moment, but I do not remember that being in Live from Death Row at all. Like, maybe it hadn't happened at the time he wrote that book. That book is kind of old. But man, that is something that I wish that there had been a chapter in that book, or I would be interested in reading more about. Like, wow, that, and I think he said it was like 8 years of punishment because he wouldn't cut his hair. Like, wow. Okay. He mentioned the distribution of Frantz Fanon's Wretched of the Earth. That is on my list. 10 worst books of all time. You really want to mess up your brain computer about what it means to be classified as white, what racism is, how it works. That would be a book to read. You will be super confused. The report about Michael Fultz, he's Deputy of the Year in Wisconsin, Kenosha specifically. I said, dang, he giving the Nazi salute on videos. He's always just a joke. We were just pranking. We were just playing a little joke. That's all. And he said he was using the flock cameras to spy on his sex partners. I have heard so many reports in Wisconsin and beyond. We heard 2 different ones today, the other in South Florida, of these enforcement officials, everybody using these cameras to be checking on sex partners or potential sex partners, all of that. Like, dang, is that all we use the flock camera for? Spying on people that we are having sex with or hope to have sex with or used to have sex with? Like, that's what the flock camera is going to be used for? They should go ahead and shut that down now. Like, I hear way more reports about incorrect usage of this technology than, oh man, we solved the bank robbery. Oh man, this dude was trying to do another, Sade Robinson type murder, and we stopped all that before he got. I don't hear none of that. I hear all the time, oh, here we go again. He's supposed to be investigating crime, and he done made 50 searches for his girlfriend, and all the time. The situation in Antioch, the victim was anonymous, black female, where she bought a house. She said, this was my gift for myself for turning 35. And this white race soldier was coming out and threatening her and all the rest. And they said she didn't want to feel unsafe in the neighborhood. We do not have neighborhoods in the system of white supremacy racism. We don't have communities. We are not safe. This could happen to any of us at any moment in the system of white supremacy racism. And even if you exclusively live amongst non-white people, those can end up being super dangerous regions as well. So we do not have neighborhoods. We would have to produce justice to then go about building neighborhoods, communities. And this is another segment in Antioch where this white man is coming out and cursing at her and calling her a nigger and all the rest of it. And it seemed like it might have been some animosity because she reported him about the cats. And so now I'm going to have vengeance. This is one where I've said she pulled out her camera, so she has evidence of the name calling and terrorist abuse and everything. But I've said for years, I have seen consistently where when you record race soldiers in action, they generally, I can use their word, they are generally emboldened. I do not have any thought hesitation that, oh man, a enforcement officer might, review this footage at some point. A judge might view this footage at some point. I might be shamed on social media. Maybe my employer might see this. Males, females, children, doesn't matter. I have seen tons of video where the camera racists, they intensify their abuse. If it's just verbal, I'm going to say even more. Might even provoke me to being physical now that you pull the camera out, because I'm going to knock that out of your hand and then whack you a few times for having the audacity to be uppity and think you're going to record me. Just something that I've noted. Don't think that camera will keep you safe. And if anything, be on extra alert, because they may intensify their attack because now they're being recorded, which seemed to happen in this case as well. I also want to add, in this case, they had this race soldier's mom hop out and say, now, he has behavioral issues. He's my son. Everyone knows we have to be a little bit patient with him. He gets a little crazy sometimes. He's got his ADHD, and the ADHD makes him racist from time to time. Having ADHD makes him threaten and terrorize black females? I don't understand. I've never heard that before. Crazy? You mean racist? Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, third-generation physician, general and child psychiatrist, she used to say explicitly, resist the urge to classify white racist conduct as crazy. I'm aware of many people who have ADHD. I'm not aware of them having outbursts where they got to call you all kinds of nigger this and nigger that and nigger this and nigger that and terrorize you, and that's my ADHD acting up. I don't think ADHD is a justification for breaking the law. I don't think they let you go and rob the bank. So that's my ADHD acting up. It makes me a little wacky from time to time. Say, oh, okay, no problem. Just put the bills back on the table. It's all good. I don't think they'll do that at the bank. You can try and see. Especially if you're white. Try and see. The section now we go back to Frisco. That report, update on the Carmelo Anthony trial, that's the one, the stabbing in Frisco, where he stabbed and killed this white male student at the track meet. And they go and give all this extra evidence, and sounded like both of these individuals, the white child and the black child, are not people that I would want to be around. They both have lengthy records of threatening people, apparently, and threatening females and cursing folks and all the rest of it, and using racist slurs against black people. Like, man, I do not want to hang out with either of you dudes. Like, matter of fact, Fuller, he had that term short timers. He said you can already see what they do and talk about. It seemed that both of you talk about violence, and I'm going to shoot up the school, and I'm going to shoot you, and I'm going to go fight you, and I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to stab you. And if that's what you talk about and think about, and type of music that you listen to, and threatening people is all that, I'm going to kill that MF. That was both of them. That was both of them. You could have mixed it and it, whatever. Who said what? Who said you could put this statement up there? Who said this? For some, it would be both of them. If that's the sort of culture and really, that is the culture of white supremacy racism. Negra, 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 and I'm gonna smack you, and I'm gonna kill you, and I'm gonna. That's white supremacy culture. Hostile, confrontation. Got to kill some, and these are children. Got to kill somebody, and now, reefer in there again. That even came to my brain computer like, you think these young people, because I have read books written by white neuroscientists, white people who study the brain computer, and they say, hey, no reefer if you are 18. Your brain computer is still developing. In fact, your brain computer is only half done cooking. It's not going to be done until you 30. You got 15 more years of brain development to go. Put that reefer down. Apparently, it would be put that reefer down for a long time, maybe permanently. Alcohol, too, was listed in there. So I was thinking, you think consuming reefer and all the super potent reefer at this age, you think that might have contributed to some of this destructive behavior? Correlation, I at least have to think about it, but man, if that is one, black culture, the way that Carmelo Anthony was talking and sounding, I'll smack you, if that's black culture for young people, wow, monsters and monstrosities. I do not want to. He could have stabbed a black, and apparently his girlfriend, I don't know if he was dating a white girl, but if he was dating a black female, Jesus, he could have stabbed her. Monsters and monstrosity. Really, the thing made me think, if I lived in Frisco, I would not want to send my child to school with any of you all. That's what I was thinking. Home school. The list, I wouldn't even have enough paper. Like, so they're stabbing, they bring in weapons to school, name calling, racist slurs, threatening the teacher, stalking, weapons, reefer. Like, I done ran. I'm like, do y'all do any studying at the school, or it's just hostility and conflict and name calling, all the stabbings, all the man, monsters and monstrosities, and that is white supremacy, racism culture, right there, both sides. The section on Tasia Fortune, that is the black female in Mississippi who was found hanging, and now apparently there's a black male who might be a suspect in this, so we'll have to see as the investigation continues. But one, they said in that report, black person, and I've heard this before, black people do not hang themselves. Again, 7 Bridges, and that is SEVEN, 7 Bridges. Isabella Izzy Tinchnor, Tichenor, Tichenor, Tichenor. These are black children who both committed suicide and hung themselves. You can investigate it for yourself. The child's name is 7, not yes, the number, but spelled out. So SEVEN Bridges, 7 Bridges, and then Isabella Tichenor, TICHENOR. These are 2 black children who committed suicide. They hung themselves. I'm saying this, I've heard this, and even there are different iterations that black people don't commit suicide. That is false. Even you can add one more, Kimberly Randall King. She hung herself in a Missouri prison. That's 2014. I wrote about that. That was under suspicion. It was investigated. Her attorney and family, they accepted the results. Now, it's still an act of racism, but she hung herself after being unjustly incarcerated in Missouri. It's 2014, I believe. Might have been 2015, but right around the same time period. But that would be another victim you could add to the list. That is not true. Neither that black people don't commit suicide, that is false. And that black people don't hang themselves, unfortunately, that is false. Yes, there have been a number of suspicious hangings of black people over many, many years where it was not suicide, but it is totally incorrect and false to say just category, hey, black people don't commit suicide or black people don't hang themselves. That is not true. And even for the Tasia Fortune case, apparently it might not be true even here. As I said, it is a black male who is accused of having done this at this point. We'll have to investigate, see what happens, but then that would be a black person did hang a black person here. I would resist the urge to make those sort of categorical statements. Again, wow, we are not well informed. We are not experts on racism. Resist making those sorts of, like I said, just massive generalizations and statements if you don't know. If anything, like 7 Bridges did happen, and these hangings were the results of racism. Their parents said that explicitly. It's not like we moved away from the main subject matter. Not at all. Why did 7 Bridges hang himself? Why did Izzy Ticknor, why did she hang herself? Victims of racism and being bullied by their racist classmates who probably behaved like you. Take your pick. Carmelo Anthony or Metcalf. Take your pick. Either one. Name calling and all of that. Same thing. Anyway, I would encourage to continue just to see what actually did take place with Tasia Fortune. And is this what happened? Was she a victim? Did she meet with foul play in some sort of way in which it would not be a suicide, that something happened to her? Just investigate to see what happened there. Also, it was said in that same segment where they had the rally to recognize her, well, I guess it could potentially be murder, death at minimum, that black males, they said we need black males to protect black females. Black males cannot protect themselves. This is the same state, Mississippi. You all were just doing these rallies days ago for Nolan Wells, yes? Nolan can't even protect himself. Not saying that to be crude, but I mean, that's just FACTS. We got to be honest about things, and that seems to be a painful one because it pops up all the time. And we just talked about the report of the young lady in California. She was an educator. She was talking about getting guns to go rob white people, and she immediately got reprimanded and put on leave from her job, and they talk about criminal charges and all the rest of it. I mean, hey, we got to be truthful about the system in which we live. That's why it's attempted parents. We can't even protect ourselves, our children. What do you mean? He said in there, our women. We don't have women. Fuller used to emphasize that all the time. They're talking about going down to study these slave ships, but we haven't moved very far. Love that segment with Fuller. He said, hey, in Katrina, that's next Saturday, 21 years. That right there, if you need a painful, pitiful illustration, 21st century, we don't have women. All it takes is a flood, and you got to be on your roof begging white people to come get you. Fuller talked about that for years. I watched the footage. Young white men in their 20s come and got to get your possessive adjective woman off a rooftop and tell you, Leroy, will be back for you later. Maybe. You ain't got, obviously, you can't protect yourself, not even from the water. We ain't got to talk about the white people who came to New Orleans to do some killing. We didn't get to that. We just talking about the water. You can't even protect yourself from the water. What do you mean protect your woman? Again, just presenting the fact. I know that is an ugly one because we've heard that before. I remember we read Pam's book, Black Love is a Revolutionary Act, also on the 10 worst books ever list, but also talks about protecting. We got to protect. You can do your best. We're reading about that right now. Robert F. Williams. You can do your best for counter violence. That's about the best you can do. But I mean, really, if black people could protect themselves, we wouldn't have a problem of racism, white supremacy. Nolan Wells would still be with us. 7 Bridges, still with us. Isabella Ticknor, still with us. Long list, long list, long list. Any hoodles. We will be here on Tuesday early, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central. 12 noon Central, 10 a.m. Pacific. Very early for Tuesday. White guest, and again, not different part of the world. So global system of white supremacy, racism. Looking forward, talking about a brand new book. And again, this is everyone's favorite area of people activity, Area 8. Looking forward to it. Hopefully, I will have updates either by Tuesday or as we get into the next week on the Sade C. Robinson case. The emails, I can only conclude if listeners are getting blocked, the emails are having a constructive impact. If you have found the cows constructive, even if you haven't, hey, Sade C. Robinson. This is a black female, 19 years old, who was killed by some racist, a 33-year-old racist, killed and dismembered. Her mother couldn't even bury her properly with her skull. Still don't have it. I think that atrocity, racist atrocity, is worth 5 minutes. Hey, worth 5 minutes every day until we get these public records. And again, being precise, once you send that email the first time, it ain't gonna take 5 minutes the next time to send it again, even to be an all-star and amend the date. That's the only thing that would change. Get ready to send it again on Monday. New date, August 24. Still got my signature there. Bam, I'm still in Louisiana or London or wherever you are. Send. We get to Tuesday, August 25. All I do is update 25. Signature is there. Location the same. Send. If you get blocked, let me know. That benefits us. These are public officials. They should not be blocking courteous, professional, citizen emails, inquiries, really. Keep up the email campaign. I know Ms. Scarborough appreciates, especially if we get these records. Ms. Scarborough, super grateful. Sade C. Robinson and her family and relatives, super grateful. Gusty as well, super grateful. Let's get these records. Small J justice for Sade. And we are fighting racism, white supremacy. Anybody who, hey, I'm bored, or I don't have direct ways where I'm participating to help with regards to counter racism. This is one right here that is, way, in my opinion, way more impactful, way more important than I'm going to go and watch Netflix, watch TV, watch some sort of documentary or whatever the case, and say it's about racism, or I'm going to break down the racism in the latest film or what have you. You can still do all of that. Take 5 minutes to help a real world victim of white supremacy get small J justice for her child, victim of racism. At least to get these documents, find out who wrote these letters of support, find out how we only got 2 black people on this jury, 9 white people. That's it. Much obliged for tuning in. Hopefully constructive, worthy of your Saturday evening. We'll be here early on Tuesday. Drop an email if you need any assistance with the email campaign or have other questions and such about the broadcast. Looking forward to doing it up on Tuesday. Someone had asked for tips on reading. One tip that I can give on reading, look for the supplements. The current book that we're reading, Robert F. Williams, the memoirs of Robert and Mabel Williams. It has footnotes as you proceed, and sometimes it'll be whole books with other information about what happened in Monroe, North Carolina, or other contemporaries, associates of Robert and Mabel Williams. So that's one, if you want to get more information about a specific subject matter of interest. Also, I think more folks, certainly more younger folks, but more people in general, in terms of using technology as you read, you'll have, the AI and bots and all that to help, which can, be great supplements if you have questions as you're reading, if something doesn't make sense. I have found the bots, the AI, are most helpful when you are reading if you go ahead and upload a PDF of either the entire work that you're reading. If it's a book or whatever the case, you can upload the whole book. Just upload it. Or if it's an article, whatever it is, newspaper article, whatever, just upload the whole thing. And or if it's a book, so that's really long, I found that it's most accurate, most helpful, even going page by page if it's something really specific that you want to inquire about, because you can take a screenshot and share a whole, page, or if it's paragraphs, copy and paste, all that. I found that it can be substantially more precise, scientific, and accurate, because then it's got all of the details. So if there are any books that are cited, it'll pull up other information about that book that's being cited. It'll have all the details, just right there to give a very comprehensive response if you're using AI to help augment your reading of a particular source. Upload the whole book as a PDF and or upload screenshots, PDFs of the specifics, or just copy and paste the text of the specific text that you are reading. It can be very, very accurate and helpful in that way, as opposed to just kind of talking in a more general, summarized way about whatever the text is or whatever the passage is. Try to be as exact as you can, and it'll be way, way more helpful. That's one tip. Anyway, more to come. Sobriety would be best. Man, that would be one too. If your child, if you haven't started like the academic year yet, you have young children, or even college students, if they're still out, man, that would be one. Do some research on why white people in Massachusetts, why are there growing numbers of these folks saying we need to repeal recreational cannabis? Why? What's going on up in New England? Is this an act of racism? Reefer madness? What's going on? Black entrepreneurs that they're trying to bankrupt? Why are they working to repeal this? And was Kevin Sabet, was he being truthful? Did they lie to us? All this propaganda about all these good things, the modern 21st century elixir, recreational reefer. Did they lie to us about all that? That would be something to research before they go back to school. Like, oh yeah, be informed about this one here. Sobriety would be best. And Labor Day coming up too. Isn't Labor Day coming up? Hop ahead of all those holiday foolishness. Don't end the summer. Gotta act a fool and get some sort of DUI or driving under the influence. They get you that. They said that was part of the cannabis lie too. They said our roads are more dangerous. Why is that? They doing the puff pass in the car, or the dabs, or the gummies, all the rest of it. Creator, we ask that you remind us, stop saying not all white people are racist. Remind us, stop saying, stop cursing and name calling people classified as black. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Cow signing out. justice for Sade. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed.
I'm a victim, brother.
Problem. You're a victim.
Man, I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning.
Shut up.
The man has programmed my conditioning. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.